All right, all. So first off, welcome to the Fall 2025 Student Group Leadership Summit. We're really excited to have you all with us today. If this is your first time, you're going to hopefully learn a lot. And if you're a returning officer, we have a lot of new information to go over today. So I think everybody's going to take something away, whether you're a new or you've been an officer for multiple semesters. I want to start with a couple of quick introductions, and then we'll talk a little bit about what today is all about. Which is really about helping set your student organization for a successful semester. So whether you are new or returning, today is really about giving you the tools to be successful as a student organization leader. For my sake, just to get a sense of how many people this is their first summit, if you could put a number 1 in the chat if this is your first time being at a student group leadership summit. Okay, wow. Okay, we have a lot of new people. Awesome. Well, welcome and congratulations on your officer positions, all. We're really excited. I see a 2 thrown in already. I think Amber knows what's coming. If you guys have been to a summit in the past, go ahead and throw a number 2 into the chat. Yeah, you could see, oh yeah, literally the mic scroller can't keep up with the amount of 2s that are coming through. So for everybody else, welcome back. We're really excited to have so many of our returning student leaders with us. You guys are going to definitely do great things again this semester. I think for all the people that put 2s, you know me. My name is Chris. I'm the coordinator of student organizations. I serve to help support student organizations. If you put a 1 in the chat, you may have not had a chance to meet me, but at least somebody, if you didn't get the email from me directly, myself and Abby, who's going to introduce herself in a second, we're the primary support people for TU student organizations. So if you're having a challenging situation in your club, you need help with something, or you're just not sure how to, we were trying to do X, Y, Z, we don't know how to make that happen, you can reach out to the 2 of us to basically be your key support people this semester. And basically, well, I'll say this semester because Abby's actually graduating after this semester. Abby, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Abby. I'm the grad assistant for student orgs and just here to help out. You'll probably get a lot of emails from me. But yeah, I am excited to graduate in December. But I've loved my time so far. So if you ever need anything this semester, just let me know.
Awesome. And then I'm going to ask one other person, Kelly, who was testing her tech a little bit earlier. She's going to be assisting with her presentation today. Kelly, do you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. I'm Kelly Carpenter. I'm the Assistant Director of Leadership in the Office of Student Activities. So that means that I am part of the team that is here to support the student organizations. I'm Chris's direct supervisor. So anytime that you're looking for assistance, if you can't find Chris or Abby, feel free to look for me as well. We all share office space here in student activities. I definitely want to make sure that you know we're here to support you both as individual student leaders as well as your organizations with whatever it is that you are hoping to accomplish this semester. And I'm super excited to be a part of today's event. And also, I went to Grace this summer. Love seeing all the travel.
Very cool. Awesome. All right. And then 2 other individuals that are not going to introduce themselves today, but you will get to hear from in the very near future. They'll be introducing themselves to you via email, is our student organization ambassadors. So they are undergraduate students that are within student organizations. Many of you might know Joy. She was a student organization ambassador last year. She did an absolutely fantastic job. She's returning to us this year, so we're excited to have her. We're very sad that and also happy that Chanel graduated last semester, but we're really excited to welcome Adaratu, who's going to be our newest student organization ambassador, who also serves as the president of the Women in Cybersecurity Club. So you guys will get more contact from them. I do believe that we may also have the director and assistant director of student organizations on this call. I may give them a chance during the break to introduce themselves if they're here. I didn't have a chance to confirm that before the meeting though. So I want to tell you guys just a little bit about what to expect for today. So really, really quick, today's training is going to utilize multiple Zoom rooms. We're going to be in this space, which we're calling the main session, for the majority of the day. So for basically the first 2 hours. All of the session links you can find on Involved at TU. So if you made it to here, likely you had the agenda with all of the links in it. Abby will throw that in the chat when it becomes time for us to move to different sessions. So if you're a little bit confused now, I will talk about like what's going to happen in more detail in just a moment. If you're having trouble tech-wise, something's not coming through, if you're having an issue, you can't get somewhere, Kelly or Abby are going to be the people who can help you. They just introduce themselves, so you can private message them if you don't want to send it in the full group chat to have them help you. So please just send them a message if you get stuck somewhere, okay? We're going to ask that you do try to keep yourself muted unless you're invited to speak, especially during the presentation portions, because we do have a lot of information and we want to make sure everybody can hear the information that's being presented. We do invite you to keep your camera to be engaged throughout the event. For some of us, like especially those that put ones in the chat, like we may have never seen your faces. So getting a chance to put some names to faces together, that is a little bit about what today is about. So we can meet you and get to know you a little bit. So when we see you around campus, you don't just know us. I already did press record, so it is happening. We are going to record everything today, so even the breakout sessions, everything will be saved. We're also going to collect the PowerPoints that you'll see today, including the one that's being presented right now. So you will have access to this information later. In terms of taking notes, that means you don't need to write every single thing that's on the screen down, but because especially some of the information we're going to go over today is very new and will require some action on your part, I would encourage you to take notes as they make sense for your organization so that you have the proper action items after the summit's done today, so you know what you have to go back and make sure your organization is ready to do. And the last thing, and you guys have been doing a fantastic job with this already, is please feel free to be active in the chat. If you have questions, comments, don't hesitate to throw them out. If I'm presenting and I see it, I will try to respond to it if there is time. Because we have a lot of information, we may not be able to get to everything, but Kelly and Abby are very good at monitoring the chat. So you might ask a question and one of them is just going to come in and reply with your answer, okay? If we don't get to your question during the training portion while it's happening, write it down and save it until the end. I will definitely, along with Abby, hang out for a bit to take questions after the summit's done. So if there's something you want to talk very specific for your organization, we'll have time for that. All right, and with that, I do want to welcome our special guest. And this individual, Dr. Patricia Bradley, has been a long-term, I want to say, supporter of student organizations, and in particular, the Student Group Leadership Summit. I think she's come to every single one for close to a decade. It's been a long time. So Dr. Bradley's offered to join us today to formally welcome you all and share some remarks. Dr. Bradley, floor is yours.
All right. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So first and foremost, let me just thank all of you for taking the role as leaders on our campus. That's not a small ask of you. You've been asked to take a leadership role. In addition to, some of you are working part-time jobs. Some of you have families you're taking care of at home, a heavy course load. I like to acknowledge that your role as a leader on this campus is a significant role, and I appreciate the fact that you've stood up to do that. I am Patricia Bradley. I serve as the Vice President of the Office of Inclusion and Institutional Equity. My office is in the main administration building on the second floor, but I also have office space in the student union. So I have two departments that are in the union. One is the Center for Student Diversity, and the other is Accessibility and Disability Support Services, ADS. So ADS is downstairs on the bottom floor, and the CSD is on the third floor. So those are my two departments that are here in the union. I have another department that's located, I'm trying to read chat. I thought someone was chatting to me. I also have a department that's located in the main administrative building. They are Inclusive Excellence and Education Support. So they're what we call my education team. So I'm not going to really tell you a whole lot about today what my teams do, but you can obviously go to our website and check out what all our departments are and what we do. But I think that there is a question amongst many of you and curiosity. Everyone wants to know, well, what's the state of DEI for Towson University? How are we responding to the federal mandates, guidance? What is our response going to be? I will tell you this, that the university, we are, they've taken a stance. Our president is holding true to the values of this university, at least as it pertains to making sure that everyone on our campus has a sense of belonging. We are focusing on belonging for everyone. And that's belonging of every single identity group that exists on this campus, regardless of what your identity is. Every single identity group. should feel that they belong on this campus. We should be creating safe spaces for all of our students. With that said, we provide safe spaces for all of our students. We provide cultural programming for our students, for which everyone is invited to attend our programming. Our programming is not for a specific identity or population of students. It is for everyone. In order for us to prepare global students to go out in a global society and be prepared to be among people who are different than yourselves, different than you, different backgrounds, different perspectives, we have to host these programs so that you can feel comfortable with coming in that space and learning more about each other. So I encourage your groups, the organizations that you're a part of, to take part in those efforts that we are bringing to this campus in order to make sure that we're facilitating belonging on campus. Now, with respect to the federal laws right now, if any of you are tracking the federal laws, the mandates that are intended to dismantle DEI, it's an ongoing feat by this current federal administration to dismantle DEI. As it stands right now, Towson's position remains, and always has been, that we have not discriminated in any way. We are not in violation of any federal anti-discrimination laws by conducting programming, by holding safe spaces. There's been different guidance that has been issued by the federal government, keeping in mind that this is guidance. These are not federal laws as of yet. The guidance and the resolutions, they're being challenged in court right now. Now, if, say, all of these mandates go to court and they are successfully prevail in court, and we have to come back and make changes within our university, we are absolutely willing to comply to the laws of the land. However, with that said, we also believe that we have to create a space for our students where they can have dialogue, where we can have conversations about differences, differing opinions, everything that's going on in the world right now. There needs to be a space where we can provide our students to have these conversations. So that's what we want to offer you all. Just a space to have these conversations and dialogue. Right now, it is an interesting time in our country in terms of what's going on. But I encourage you all to just make sure that you're looking out for each other, that you're really tuning in to what your peers and your classmates are saying and what they're feeling and the frustrations that they have these conversations. And when you're not able to hold space and engage in the conversation because maybe it's a polarizing view where you just don't feel like this is a conversation that you want to have with someone because it's just too hard of a conversation to have, reach out to other resources, to individuals who can have these conversations and that can have these conversations so it's more of an opportunity to listen and understand versus a situation where you are just debating. We don't want to debate sides. We want to understand the other person's side and try to come to some type of agreement to say, you know what, we may not agree with your side, but we understand what your perspective is. And this is what my perspective is. And share that perspective in a sensible way, in a way that hopefully won't offend others. So that's really what we're trying to do across campus. Nothing that we're doing is to offend any other identity groups. We just want to make sure that everyone knows that at Towson University, as diverse as this campus is, that you all belong, that you all have a space. And at the end of the day, our goal is to see you graduate and to see you be prepared to go into a global society and be able to go forth and bring great things back to Towson, bring your skills, your trades back to Towson University, or go back into your communities with a skill set that maybe you didn't come here with. Now, let me see. I'm trying to look in the chat. If anyone wants to get off the mic and if you want to ask me any questions about our office, Chris, I don't know if you have other VPs that are coming in today to talk, but if there is a question that any of you may have in terms of administration or leadership, if I can't answer the question, feel free to ask me the question and I can take that question to cabinet to see what some of your concerns may be coming in.
I can confirm that you're the only VP we have on the call today.
Okay.
And I will say, if anybody does have any questions for Dr. Bradley, if you want to either send them an email to, just send them an email to myself. Abby will put my email in the chat. I'll forward them to you. Does that sound okay?
Yes.
Because I know we're on the time schedule, so, and I don't want to cut off an important conversation that I know you wouldn't want to leave people hanging if we
Right.
get to it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I do just want to comment that student organizations, you guys, the whole concept of a student organization is belonging, right? You're developing a community of people, whether it's around a specific identity or just a specific interest that you all share a passion for. So this work that Dr. Bradley and her office does, ADS, Accessibility and Disability Services, and IEES, they're both going to be doing a presentation later that you have an option to attend if you're passionate about this concept of belonging and how can you make your organization one that is welcoming to all students. So I'll encourage you to do that. Dr. Bradley, thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we can get some claps in the chat for Dr. Bradley. I would appreciate it.
Thank you all. You all have a great, successful year.
Thanks, John.
All right.
All right. All right, tell me, can you guys see the PowerPoint okay? We're back. All right, great. I see some people nodding. Thank you to those that have your cameras on. And oh, look at all the claps happening in chat. All right, perfect. All right, so very briefly, I want to go over today's agenda. So what you can expect from today, from now until about roughly 2:30, we're going to be talking about the student org policy changes that I've emailed you about to expect to be gone over. You're going to get some involved at TU tutorials that's going to help you. Kelly's going to help with that regarding some of these policy changes that you will need access to involved at TU to do. And then I'll go through the student org top 10, which are like the 10 most things that you really need to know as a student organization officer. From 2:30 to 3:30 in this space, we will have the treasurer's workshop, and then we'll give you a 10-minute break. And then at the end, after the break's ended, you will be moving to a breakout session of your choosing. They're listed on the next slide here of the different options. But what I'm going to recommend you do is go to the QR code here or what the link on Involved at TU that has, if you just Google or go to Involved at TU and type Summit, you can find the list of all the breakout sessions and their Zoom links. The important thing to note is that after you go, if you don't stay in this space to go to the Tiger Stripe session that I'm going to do, if you go to, let's say, the belonging one, that's going to happen. The important thing is after you go to that breakout session in their Zoom link, you come back to this Zoom link at 4 o'clock so that we can do the closing and assessment. That is very important because there is a checkout procedure that we need you to do. Okay. All right, let's hop in. So biggest thing that we're going to go over today are these new student organization policy and procedure changes. This is brand new information that hasn't been done before and it came about this summer, and I'm going to go into why in just a moment. The important thing I want you to take away from this portion of the presentation is that the information I'm about to share with you isn't something that you need, that can just live with you. You need to take it back and share it with your executive board. I'm going to give you some tips as we're going along through this of things that you may want to consider when talking with your executive board. But the important part is that this shouldn't just be you trying to manage these new policy and procedure changes. It really should be a team effort so that you make sure that you're successful as a group, okay? Now, the biggest part, and I am a person who always wants to understand the why. So why are we having these changes? Or like, what's the purpose? So for those that are not aware, which is probably most of you, that this past spring and over the summer, even currently, Towson, specifically our office, the Student Government Association, we're undergoing an audit by the state of Maryland. This is routine. This happens from time to time. And essentially, this is because we are a state school and essentially under the direction of the state as a state school. So they have certain guidelines and requirements that we as an institution have to comply with. Through this audit process, even though it is not fully completed yet, so the biggest part of their findings that's going to relate to you all as student organizations comes that they have asked for us a need to have additional documentation from our student organizations. And that looks like a variety of different factors, but essentially they're saying that our record keeping for what we're able to provide regarding our student organizations, they need more information on an ongoing basis. So throughout the summer, our team and the SGA finance team have worked together to hopefully streamline new processes that are going to help us capture this additional documentation. And I want to reiterate that our goal for this is to keep it as easy as possible for you all to manage, but recognizing that the information we need is information that only you in some cases possess. So we need your help in making sure that we can have that information so that we can present it essentially through the audit process to the state on an ongoing basis. I'll talk about, there's a couple other small changes and I will get to them when we get there that are not related to the audit, and it'll all make sense. I'm going to give you on the next slide here the full overview of what the changes are. So essentially, it's going to boil down to having every student organization that will be required to have the office or positions of president and treasurer. So I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. There is going to be a separate required financial training for then that president and treasurer. You will be required to maintain an accurate roster of your organization on Involved at TU. This is not so much different as we're going to have to make sure that like you guys do submit rosters, but making sure that they meet our minimum standards and they're kept up to date. That is going to be a priority. The biggest one on this list is the next is taking attendance for all student organization gatherings via Involved at TU. I'll go into detail about that. And then some of the other changes relate to our contracting processes, no ticketing / fundraising with SGA funds, overstaying ECS room reservations and building closing procedures, which I'll talk in detail. That is not related to the audit. And then the events with alcohol policy, which is a small thing that's been changed. So this is what we're going to talk about in detail, starting with the required positions of president and treasurer. So I recognize that the vast majority of groups on this campus already have a president and treasurer. Although going forward, every group will need to make sure that they have them and have them listed appropriately on your roster on Involved at TU. And as somebody who has gone through your rosters, et cetera, I know some of you may have like a financial manager instead of a treasurer position. It's going to be important that the positions that you list on your roster, that somebody is marked with president and treasurer. So even if you have a financial manager, quote unquote, you tag that person with both your created financial manager position and treasurer. The other key thing is that, especially for some organizations where maybe your president also function as your treasurer, this needs to have these two people be two different individuals. You could choose to have, for example, the vice president serve as vice president and treasurer or secretary / treasurer. That would be fine, but it needs to be essentially at least two people in these two roles. And the biggest thing for this is these two individuals need to have a clear understanding of the organization's financial processes. And in the long run, this will definitely benefit your organization. Specifically, if, let's say, the treasurer, for whatever reason, gets sick, has to take a semester off from Towson, your organization then isn't left with nobody knowing the financial procedures, right? Your president would be able to serve as the backup and make sure that it would be successful. Or let's say your president is graduating, having two people with the information is a better chance of you keeping that information with your organization. So, but the short version of this is you will need a president, you will need a treasurer, and you will need to mark them appropriately on Involved at TU. Kelly is going to, in a little bit, in about 2 slides, she's going to show you how to do this. So she'll go into detail, but I want to make sure that you understand that these are going to be the 2 required roles for all organizations going forward. The second piece is the financial training that was mentioned that the president and treasurer will have to go through. So this is brand new. This hasn't been done before. And this is basically going to be used to give you some of the information that you need to operate both successfully as a financial steward of your organization, but also to make sure that you are supplying the needed documentation that the audit's requiring. So these sessions, there's going to be many options for you, but they will be 1-hour trainings that are going to happen in person over the next couple weeks. There's going to be these are going to be led by the SJ finance staff, and you are encouraged / if other officers want to come get this information as well. So let's say the president and the treasurer are going to go because they're required. You can definitely have your vice president, secretary, or maybe a student. Let's say you have somebody who might be thinking about running for treasurer next year, right? They could come as well to get this information. So as many people that want to come are welcome. All right, in the training, you're going to learn about the different types of accounts that the SGA has and you as an organization have, and the types of funding that that are available to you. The process of submitting purchase requests, they will go through that in great detail. So how do you spend money as a student organization leader? And then the documentation I mentioned that you're going to need to make purchases. The big thing about this training is, because this is such a big deal with the audit, is that until your organization you have your president and treasurer attend the financial training, you will not be able to spend money or access your organization's funds until the training is done. So especially for those organizations that have stuff coming up early in the semester, this is something we're going to encourage you not to wait on. You will want to make sure that you get the training done sooner rather than later. And to that effect, to make it even, I won't say better for you, but there's literally a training tomorrow. So we haven't even moved back on the campus, and they're going to be offering a training tomorrow from 1:30 to 2:30 in LA 1201. These are all the dates. You can also find them on Involved at TU. But if you want to take a quick screenshot or take your phone, I will leave it on this slide for a second. Take a picture. This would be one of the things I would take back to your officers, especially if you're treasurer, let's say, or if you're here as, let's say, the vice president, would need to take this back to your president and treasurer to make sure that they know they need to attend one of these. The question is a great one in the chat by Ricardo. Says, do presidents and treasurers need to go together? They do not. You guys can, but if you choose to attend separate sessions based on your class schedules or availability, the important thing is that you both go to at least one. You don't need to go to more than one. They're exactly the same presentations, though. So just find the ones that work for your schedule. Thank you. That was a great question. I appreciate that. If the president is sick and cannot, can the vice president attend in their place? Madeline, let me get back to you on that about what would happen. The reason they're offering so many dates is to hopefully make sure that if you were sick, that somebody would be able to, there's another option for you to attend. I would say that would be a special circumstance, and we would work something out for you. But I will say that if it's holding up your organization's funding, I would email the SGA Finance at towson.edu to follow up with them. Does this include award money given as well? Yes, all student organization funding. Essentially, to use money, you need to go to one of these financial trainings. Are these dates virtual? These are all in person. So there is not a virtual option at this time. Katie, yes, this would also qualify for graduate organizations. This is not related to SGA budgeting, which we are going to talk about a little bit later. Graduate organizations are exempt from that. Do we have to wait until the president votes to access funds? Yes, you need to have both attend. So make sure that you guys share this information so that we can get you guys taken care of. There's a number of dates during the first week of classes and then literally the second week as well. So hopefully these will work for you. I'm going to hold questions here. I will bring back time between this and the next session or during the break if you have more specific details. Aiden, to your question, can the president and treasurer attend separately? Yes, you may. Okay. Make sure you get the dates down so that you have them, just so you can make sure that you get this taken care of as soon as possible. All right. The next part that is also extremely important, besides the president and the treasurer positions only, we do need you to make sure that your actual roster on Involved at TU of your other members is also accurate. So you guys actually, many of you have already done your re-registration form on Involved at TU. And actually, as a part of that process, you were asked to update your rosters and upload members. I can say that at least some of your organizations I know did not take the time to update your rosters because the rosters were submitted with 1, 2, or maybe 3 members. And one, I know your organization are larger than that, but 2, the more important part here is that there's a minimum to be a student organization. You have to have at least 5 members on your roster. So we're going to be being much more strict about having to enforce that if your roster is under 5, I recognize maybe some people haven't accepted their invitations, etc., but we're going to need you to make sure that your roster is as accurate as possible. And we will not approve your re-registration form if you have under the 5 members. I know some of you would have gotten the denial from me over the summer because the rosters you tried to submit were less than 5. So make sure your 5 members are on there, but it's also going to be important that not just having 5 people, but having an accurate makeup of your roster for a number of reasons. So even if your roster was up to date when you did the re-registration, we know that your organization is both going to gain and lose members as the semester goes along. So for example, after the involvement fair, we know you guys are going to recruit a bunch of students that are going to start coming to your meetings. Make sure that you have a plan for someone, doesn't have to be you, an officer in your club, it could be the secretary, it could be the vice president, could be the president, is going to go in and update the roster. So adding the new members. So this would be something where you can go back and talk to your exec board to make a plan for who's going to be responsible for ensuring our roster on Involved at TU stays up to date. And then by the same token, your first meeting, you're probably going to get, maybe not those numbers, but let's say you get 40 people, new people come to your first meeting after the involvement fair. And then, 3 weeks later, there's only 20 showing up because people chose other things to get involved in, right? You want to make sure you take those people off your roster if they're no longer actually involved in your club. So having somebody who's accurately keeping a record of who's on your roster. And there's going to be a lot of benefits to actually having an accurate roster. The first is if you are, for those that have been, officers or organizations in the past and are familiar with Tiger Stripes, if you ever want to assign community service hours to a student on your roster, they have to be on your roster before you can do that. So this will cut out a step for having to try to scramble to add people at the end of the semester. And then second is about Involved at TU event visibility. So when we get into the next slide, you may want to make events specifically like maybe an officer meeting or something of that nature that is only going to be shown to your members of your club. If people are not on your roster, they will not be able to see those events. So we want to make sure your roster is accurate so that the event filters that you can use later will work for you. Now, I'm going to stop here for a moment, and Kelly's going to take some time to show you about updating your roster and then assigning president and treasurer and other officer positions. Kelly.
Hey, everybody. Okay, let me share my screen. All right, can I get a confirmation that you can see Involved at TU? Awesome, thank you. Okay, so as you all know, Involved at TU is where your student organization pages live. So the thing that we want to make you understand is that we are considering your Involved at TU page as the official documentation for your organization. So again, in an effort to streamline and make everything as easy as possible, we're going to show you how to do some of the necessary steps that you have to do to keep things updated. But we need you to do your best to keep it updated at all times. So this isn't something that you just do during re-registration or just at the beginning of the semester. You're going to maintain your roster throughout the year. So to get started, you're going to notice I am signed in. You do have to be signed in. And I'm going to go to my organization's page. For these demonstrations today, I'm going to be using our new resource page for student organizations, which is also something you should all become familiar with because a lot of things are going to live here that are going to be super helpful for you. So in this first demonstration, we're specifically focusing on the roster requirements. When you are an officer with admin access to your page, you will see that when you go to it, you have a Manage Organization button on the right-hand side. It will also be listed, there's 2 ways to get to this, over here on your menu, down here in your little icons for your organizations. Either place, you can click on Manage Organization or you can click on the icon, but you're going to get into what's considered the admin area of your page. This is where you have the ability to edit the content, to add content, to do what you need to do. So from here, you're going to select roster. And there's a couple different steps that we want to start with. We want to start with the basics. How do you add new members to your organization? There are 2 different ways that you can add new members. One is that you can be the one inviting them. So if I have an interest meeting for my new org, or if I do a sign up sheet at the involvement fair, however you're collecting the information, one of the key pieces of information that you need is the TU student email address. That's how you're going to connect with people on Involved at TU. This big blue button right here that says invite people, you simply click on it. And as soon as it loads, of course, today it will go slow. You're going to see you can enter up to 500 email addresses in the text box below. So if you have a whole list of email addresses, if you've kept a spreadsheet, you can copy and paste them in as long as they're on an individual line or separated by a comma. Or if you're just adding a few and you just want to type them in, Abby, I'm going to use you as our example because I know you don't mind everybody having your email. So I'm just typing in Abby's email address right here. That's all I'm doing. And then I click add email address. Now I'm being given an option to invite her as a member. And I'm going to click, sorry, I have to move my Zoom bar. It's in the way. I know you can't see that. Okay, you're going to click send invitation. What that's going to do is actually send an invitation to Abby. She's going to get two things. She's going to get an email notification in her Towson student email saying, you've been invited to this club. And on her homepage of Involved at TU, she's going to have a little box under the My Organization section that's going to have an orange outline kind of flashing, and it's going to say, you have an invitation. What this does is it puts the responsibility back on that student to accept the invitation. So this is the one version where if you have a list, you're going to reach out to them and say, we're inviting you, but they still have to accept before they show up on your roster. That's important for you to know. If you choose this option, then they have work that they still have to do. From here, where it says manage roster, you can see our current list is Chris and me, right? That's our membership right now. If I click pending, and it's going to think for a second. Oh,
Sorry, I approved it.
Did you approve it? Oh,
I didn't know if I was supposed
Abby
to.
accepted too quickly. Sorry, Abby, I should have told you to wait. Okay, so what this was going to show if Abby had not accepted her invitation, her name and email or her name was going to be listed right here with the date that I invited her. And there would be a little box right here where I could click it and resend it. So let's say you sent all your invitations 1 week and a week later, there are still some people who didn't accept the invitation. You can send it out to them again real quick just by clicking the boxes. But because Abby clicked yes, I'm going to guess when I click this and it refreshes, she's going to be on our list. There she is. So you can see Abby's now on our list, right? Now, the other option is if you go to, I'm just going to go all the way back out. For members of your organization, again, let's say that you're having an interest meeting. If you tell everyone, you give them the instructions to go to your page, right? So they're logging in to Involved at TU. They're going to type in your student organization name in the search bar, and they're going to click on your page. When they get there, oh, it's not going to show for me because I'm already in it. Okay, I need you to pretend. Well, I need you to pretend for a second. There's going to be right here next to where we have manage organization, there's going to be a blue button that says join. If they click the join button, they are now sending you a request of, can I be a member? Okay, so that's the other way that you can initiate this process is tell everybody, do this right now, send it in. Now the onus is on you to accept them. So again, depending on how your organization is structured and how you want to handle this, it can happen either way, that you're either inviting or they are requesting to be a member. And either way, there is a second step. When someone requests to be a member of your organization, you then have the responsibility of going back into your roster and coming over to prospective. You can see that we have an alert that 2 people have requested to join this page. Let's find out who they are. I honestly don't know who they are. Let's see. So we have 2 individuals who requested to join this page today. We have the ability to approve or deny their request. So this is now my job. This is how I would add them to the roster. I'm not going to click either of these because Chris and I haven't talked about if we're going to include members on this page or not. But once you click approve, they would show up in your roster. So that's this simple. That's how you get the people on the roster. They do have to be in the TU system. You do have to be using their TU student email to connect to them. Now let's also talk about the cleaning up. The people who already exist on your roster, I know there were several comments in the chat about taking off alumni. So yes, people who have graduated from Towson need to be removed from your active roster. Your active roster is showing collegiate members, active students enrolled at Towson who are members of your organization. So when you need to clean up, it's very simple. You, Abby, I'm going to delete you, but we'll add you back. You check the box next to their name, and then you click end membership. And you can do multiple at a time. It's simply going to take them off your roster. That's all you have to do is go through end membership. I am going to caution you to never click the end all memberships button because it's going to delete you too. And then you're totally locked out of your page. Chris and I can, of course, help you, and Abby as well, if that happens, but just don't ever touch it. Don't accidentally click that one. That's how you clean up the roster. From there, once you have your roster clean, all the right people are on it. And I did see the question in the chat. The roster is for all members, executive board and general members. Everybody that's in your club should be on your roster. So some of you are going to have giant rosters, and that's fantastic. You now need to be able to assign positions to your executive board, to your officers. And specifically, the new requirements are where we have a faux pas, right? So if you look at our roster, we are not in compliance because Chris is currently holding all 4 positions. He cannot be both the president and the treasurer. So to adjust his positions, we're going to click on the pencil and I'm going to uncheck treasurer. And I'm going to click save. And then I'm going to go to myself and I'm going to assign treasurer by doing the exact same process. I'm going to click the button. I'm going to click treasurer. I'm going to click save. Now the positions that are showing up here are the ones that are already loaded into the system. And so president and treasurer are going to show up for you. You don't have to do anything special for it. And when you assign those positions, it does automatically assign admin access to your page to do this work. So as you are transitioning your standard officers, they're going to have access to be able to do this type of thing. A general member will not be able to see these pages. They will not have access to get behind the scenes and do any of the work to change content. If you need to create additional positions, if your organization has an executive board of 10 people or more, or like Chris said, some of you have unique titles and maybe I should be listed as treasurer to be in compliance, but also as financial officer. That's this button right up here. Manage positions. Notice it's positions, not people. So this is where titles are created. You can see what already exists. This very standard. Member exists for just the general members, president, secretary, treasurer, vice president. But if we want to create something unique to our organization, and we're going to use financial officer as the example, we're going to create a new position. The position name is financial officer, not the individual you're assigning it to. You're creating a position. The position type is member participant because it's going to be assigned to a student. You want to make sure that active is checked because it's something that's actually happening. And then this is where you have the management access. So this is really important for our continued conversation and the next level of demonstration that we're going to do after Chris goes over a few more slides. All of the ins and outs, again, behind the scenes creation of content requires a member to have access. So you can give people no access, so they can't do anything. They have a title, but they can't do anything on your page if you click no access. You can give them all access, which means they literally can edit every single section of your Involved at TU page. You want to use that sparingly. That should really just be your top level executive board members, president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, etc. You then have the option to do limited access. For those of you that have organizations with event chairs or again, other types of officers, communication officer, etc. This allows you to select specific areas of the Involved at TU page that position has access to edit. And so you can choose by individual positions to either let people view the behind the scenes stuff. Full means that they can edit. Full means I can go and make changes, make new content, etc. There are documents. Events is the one that we're going to get to next. So this is very important that you pay attention here. For the individuals who are going to be creating events, and we are going to walk you through that as the next part of our tutorial, they need to have full access. So that's something to keep in mind, but they don't have to have the other stuff. So for your roster management, if you want to keep that really organized and say, you know what, it's only going to be our president, our vice president, and our secretary who are going to manage our roster, just make sure that the other positions it's marked as none. Once you're done with your selections, you click create. Oh no. I love that it says yikes. Try again. For anyone who's never experienced this, just so you know, this is a platform, and like any other platform, it's not perfect, right? Sometimes it has problems. Sometimes it's related to the internet on campus, and sometimes it's related to the platform itself. But usually it fixes itself in a matter of minutes. If you are ever working on something and you keep getting that yikes page, the like error page for an extended period of time, reach out to Chris and let him know so he can put in a support ticket for our campus. Okay, so I've just gone back to our resources page. Again, I'm clicking manage organization. And again, I'm going to go into resources. Or excuse me, roster. And I'm hoping that it saved what we just did. Okay, so now if I click on this, we're going to pretend that it did because we're short on time and I don't want this to go too long. But the work that I had just done, if we had not gotten that yikes page, when I clicked to save, it would now show up here as an option for me to assign to a person. You can see that a person can be assigned multiple positions. So if you have individuals who are holding down multiple positions, that is okay. The new requirement, however, is that a person cannot be both your president and your treasurer. That must be two distinct individuals serving on your executive board. Your treasurer can be your vice president. They can hold another officer position. It just cannot be both president and treasurer together. Chris, is there anything else that I've missed? I believe I got everything, but just before we move off of this.
Sorry, you guys had a lot of questions in the chat. I've tried to respond to as many as possible, so I apologize if I didn't get to your question. The one thing I want to note, and I'm not sure if you said this, Kelly, when I was responding to stuff, by default, president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer have administrative rights to your group's page. So if you don't have the ability, because I know somebody mentioned in the chat, like, I don't see how to get to manage organization. That means you do not have one of these titles on your page or another officer position, as Kelly just showed you, with the correct administrative access. So either A, talk to your president so they can assign you the access like Kelly just showed you, or if you're the president and you don't have access, then you either A, need to do the re-registration form, which I'll talk about later in the summit, to become the primary contact and get access, or email me /Abby and we can work that out and figure out what's going on with your club. Okay. I think that's
the other note, Chris and I have talked about this. So we use the term primary contact. You'll notice there's this extra box right up here. The primary contact should be the president. That should be the same person. So if you are the president and you're going in, again, like Chris said, your re-registration sets a lot of this automatically. So when you re-register, when you select who the primary contact is, it's going to assign that correctly. But if you're on your page and you're updating positions and you notice that the president is not up here, you can edit that the same way by clicking this little blue button. It's going to show you your roster, your active roster, and you're going to select the correct person. But we want you to be consistent that the primary contact is the president. So I know some of you in the past have maybe had your treasurer as the primary contact or other types of arrangements, but we would like you to get consistent with president being the primary contact always. Okay. All right. I'm going to stop sharing and turn it back over to you, Chris.
Thanks, Kelly.
Yep.
Okay. I recognize that was a lot of information, and I know a lot of you had questions. What I will say is this has been recorded, so if I know somebody said this is going too fast, you can go back, pause, and kind of go through like step by step. And one of the goals is we're going to cut specifically these involved at TU tutorials into shorter videos so you can actually go back and play just this portion, okay? So if you didn't catch everything, it's okay. But the key point to note is making sure you have your president and treasurer and knowing how to add and remove members from your roster. Okay, let me pull back the presentation. All right. So Kelly's going to come back in just a second here, because this is part of the biggest, I think, change that's going to affect you in your day-to-day operation of your student organization. So the big change is going to be that you will need to track attendance for all of your student organization gatherings. So this means anytime your group is getting together for quote unquote club business. So that would mean, if you're hosting a meeting, that's a club gathering. If you're having a rehearsal, that is a club gathering. If you're doing a practice, that is a club gathering. If you're having one of your events, anything that is being sponsored by your club, you need to track attendance of the individuals who are coming to that activity. So the way we're going to do this is going to be through Involved at TU. And in fact, you guys having come to the involvement fair, if you've been an officer in the past, we've had you guys scanning QR codes as you come into the event. That technology is available to you all as officers of your clubs. So, and through your organization pages. So Kelly is going to show you how to do that. But the key thing can you get that for me? Thanks. So I would say the key thing for you to know about doing this is that you'll have to have an event on Involved at TU for the gathering or activity. So there is going to be a strong recommendation from me that you should, as your officer group, have a conversation about whose responsibility is it going to be to create the events on Involved at TU. It's not difficult, but this would mean creating events for your meetings, your practices, rehearsals, and also your events. And Kelly, I'm going to just tell you now, can you show them like the different settings for how the visibility of how to show, some events you may want to show to the whole campus. Maybe your meetings are open to the whole campus. You want to promote it through Involved at TU. You can select everything, but maybe you want your meetings only to be open. Let's say Off Track is practicing for the Intercollegiate Acapella Championship. Not everybody can come to that. They would restrict the visibility of that event only to their members. And the general process is that you're going to first create the event on Involved at TU, and that can be done by any officer with administrative rights. Then from the event management page, you're going to download and save the QR code. Kelly's going to show you all about how to do this. And then when you have your event or activity or practice, you're going to have the members scan the QR code to check in. Kelly's also going to show you how to manually add attendance after the event. So let's say somebody's phone wasn't working. She's going to show you how to go about doing that and getting them onto the attendance. And then the reason that some of this will be even more important is as a part of certain financial purchases, you will need to upload that attendance document that Kelly is going to show for certain things regarding SGA finances. So that you're going to learn more about in the financial training. I'm just planting the seed now, so know that you may need to come back to these attendance documents beyond just taking the attendance. Last thing before I turn it over to Kelly, I will say the other nice thing about tracking the attendance for all of your meetings and events is that you will have an accurate list. Some people are asking, how do I know if this person's on my roster? Well, if you're tracking the attendance from your events, you will be able to see, and there's ways to run reports to show everybody who's come to all of your events. So you would be able to see like, oh, this person shows up every week. This person came once in September, and then we've never heard from them ever again, right? So you'll be able to kind of know who are the people that are active with your student organization. All right, Kelly, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Perfect. And I apologize for earlier not saying, I am going to move quickly through this, but we are recording it and we will make it available to you. So we don't expect you to watch me do this one time and know how to do your page. And also, we are here if you are struggling with managing your page and you need some assistance. All you have to do is reach out to Chris, Abby, or myself, and we'll schedule a time to meet with you and walk through it again if you need to. Okay, so you should be seeing, my involved page again. And I say because immediately I can see that it didn't load all the way. Let's hope it loads. All right. So I saw before I switched over to sharing a lot of questions in the chat about, is this for executive board meetings? Is this for every meeting? So I want to reiterate, the answer is yes. This is for every gathering of your organization, meeting, practice, service project, event, whatever you want to call it, it is for everything. You start the same way. You're going to go to your page. Again, like Chris said, you do have to be a person with admin access. So let's acknowledge for a second what we're asking you to do and what is a new requirement adds a workload. We highly recommend that you consider having at least one, if not more, executive board members responsible for creating events for you. This can be somebody's whole job. Honestly, if you meet frequently enough, if you have enough activities going on, this can be a whole executive board position, is just making sure that you're in compliance with this new policy. So we do acknowledge that it's a lot of work that we're asking you to do, but it's also not too bad. I'll be honest, it doesn't take too much time. So again, starting from my page, I have admin rights, so I can manage it. I'm going to manage my organization and I'm going to go to events. And immediately, if we had already held, excuse me, held events, our organization events would be listed, even our past ones. But just like everything else on Involved It to You, there's a big blue button. So click the big blue button for create an event. And it's really a fill in all the fields situation, right? So we're going to call this student organization test training, so that later when we see it on the page, we're not like, what's that all about? Notice that there's little red asterisks. That means you are required to fill out every field that has little red asterisks, just like any other online form that you would do. So you're going to select a theme. What is this thing? Just pick the one that makes sense, right? So we're going to pick learning. In this description box is where you put the details of your event. If it's a true event, this is where you're going to list everything people need to know about it. You can list all the details about, this is who can come, this is what we're doing, we're going to have food, we're going to have music, we're going to have fun. Or if it's just a regular board meeting, you can type in. It helps if you can spell correctly, regular board meeting. And also, you don't have typos, right? Regular board meeting. Notice you do have some options here. You can do some formatting. You can add links. So if there's information that you want to make sure your members can see in connection with this event, go ahead and put links in there. Connect it to all the things. Make it make sense. If you are co-hosting with another recognized student organization, this also gives you the option for just one person to create the event and it show up on both pages, and both organizations have the opportunity to take attendance. So co-hosting is collaborating. A lot of you use the term collaboration instead. So if we were going to co-host, what happens is you start to type in the organization name and it's going to pop up with what it lives already in Involved It to You. So I'm going to type in office of, and I'm going to select student activities just because that's our office. So I don't want to make up, events connected to other people, but without selecting them, I'm going to type in common sense politics. You can see as I was typing, they were popping up that I could have selected them. I'm not going to, because you're not going to co-host this. So what that's going to do is put this event on both of our pages. Now you get to the date and the time. Pretty simple, right? So we're going to say, you can click the little calendar. If you need to do that, you can also type directly in. We're going to say this is happening tomorrow at noon. And then there's an end date and an end time. One thing to know about the end date is that if you make it for multiple days, the system will actually create multiple events. It'll span that time frame. So be careful with that. That's not what you want to do for weekly meetings. Okay, I'll show you what to do for weekly meetings in just a second. So same day, and it's going to end. It automatically defaults to an hour. But let's say it's going to be a long event. It's going to go 12 to 3, right? So you just put in the end time. Now you're going to put the location. You click on the location. If it's an online meeting, if it's virtual, you can also add a virtual link. You get 2 options. If you leave yes, I want a map clicked, it's going to require you to put in a street address, and it includes a Google map. Most of the time, you're not going to need this because you're probably meeting on campus and you just need to put in a university union or another building and a room number, right? So you can do U329. What we will ask is that this is accurate. Please do not type things like our regular meeting room. You need to type the actual room or space that you are holding your gatherings in. On campus, if you are holding a gathering off campus, if you're meeting off campus, you need to put that in as well, but the actual location. Now, I said I'll show you what to do if it's weekly meetings, because I know some of you are asking, what about like our weekly exec board meetings? Because I know in your head, you're probably thinking that's a lot of work. That's actually not a lot of work because you can create one event and then you can just keep adding dates. So think of this like a series. If we were going to meet every Wednesday at noon in the same location, you just keep clicking add another date. You can pop in your whole semester all at one time. Notice though, once it's in here, I can go back, I can change the location. So maybe you don't meet in the same room every single week. Maybe you bounce around a little bit. You can change this to a different room for that week. What this is essentially doing is allowing you to bulk add events. It does need to be the same title and the same description. So for each type of event that you're hosting, you do have to put them in separately. But for something like in schedule of meetings, a recurring event, just go in and add your additional dates. And notice how easy it was. If I put the wrong date in, I can just delete it and it goes away. The event visibility is what Chris was mentioning. When we create content on Involved at TU, we have the ability to make it visible in layers. So the first layer of visibility is the public. That literally means the public. What it means is you don't have to be logged in with your TU email to see this content. If you just go to Involved at TU, you can see it. So that truly does mean the public can see this. If you go down one more level to students and staff at Involved at TU, that means it doesn't show up until you log in. But then anybody at TU who logs in can see it. You then can go to all members of the hosting organizations. So this connects it to your roster. And because we have a co-host, it's connecting it to both rosters, meaning every single member, regardless of that if they're an officer or not, of both organizations can see this event. You then can go down further to invited users only. This is how you do an event that is somewhat private. Now, the trick with invited users only, your individuals who have admin access, who can see events, will be able to see it even if you don't invite them. So if you have a special committee, let's say in your organization, you're holding an event and you have an event committee and they are going to have meetings, you can use invited users only. And on the pages in the future that I'm going to show you, you'll be able to invite the members of the committee, but just know your executive board is still going to be able to see it even if they're not meant to attend, because there's no way to turn off their access to see. Most of the time, you're going to want to keep meetings and things like that to members. And then if it's an event that's open to the rest of the campus, you're going to want to choose either students and staff or the public if it's a wide open event and you're happy for anyone to attend that shows up. These, you can notice that there are no requirements here, but you do have an opportunity to attach a category. So if you want to, this shows up on the event description. And perks is one of the nice things. If you are having an event and you're advertising it, you're using this for marketing and you've got free food for the people that come, you can add perks and it shows up in the system that this is an event with free food. And then click next. Now we're into RSVPs. So with our events, within the system, you have the opportunity to allow people to RSVP in advance. So this is where you click the button that says, I'm coming, and it reserves a seat for you. You can see that there's a lot of opportunities to add additional questions, and you can play around with this part of creating an event For today's purposes, we want to keep it simple. We want this to represent a standard meeting or gathering where you don't need people to RSVP in advance. You just change it to no one and it removes that setting from the visibility. It's just not there. People are able to see the meeting, but they don't have to click anything before they come. You click next. You then have the opportunity to request post-event feedback. If you've come to any of our social events that our office does, we ask people to do this. It's basically allowing the individuals who attended to provide a rating after the event. If you click this button, it automatically goes out after the event to everybody who is captured. You can add additional questions if you want to. If you don't click the boxes, if you don't want to do it, just click next. Oh, no. This is the worst time for this to be happening. Let's see if it'll just reset. In true fashion. It's okay. Chris said there's a buffer in our time. We're going to use up the buffer, Chris.
That's okay. I was going to say, if it
So
doesn't work, Kelly, you could go to the summit event and use that to show them the QR code.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The next page, the next thing that you were going to do was just add a photo. So this is actually fine for us to do this way. These photos right here that you're seeing, that was the next page. You upload a photo and it's this little photo right here. You don't want to think about what your photo is. You don't want to upload an entire flyer because you can't see all of that information. If you don't upload a photo at all, you get one of these stock photos based on that first category that you chose. Right after you type in the name, the next category over to the right, it throws a stock photo in there. They're kind of boring and they don't really make sense, so I don't recommend it. But this is where you can be a little creative too. If you're having a pizza party, throw a picture of a piece of pizza in there, and then it'll look enticing as opposed to like your flyer. Don't do that because all your information is there. So now what we want to do is show you what to do after the event. And this is really important because this is where some of the new requirements come in. We're requiring that you take attendance. So like Chris said, I'm going to use the summit as our example. Oh, wait, 2023 summit. What? That's crazy that's what popped up. I feel like involved it to you is just having a moment. They're just having
Right
a day.
there, if you want to click it.
Yeah, I clicked on it. But try again. Try again, involved it to you. I'm not going to show it now after I try to click on it. Oh, there it is. Okay, so you create the event. You click submit the event. The event exists. Now you go back into the event. So just like I just did, you click on it to get into it. And if you're a person with admin rights, you will have a manage event button. This is a person who has admin rights for events on your page. So you click the manage event button. The first thing I'm going to show you is how to take attendance. Most of you, I hope, have been to a program on campus where you've been asked to check in. There's been a QR that you scan and it asks you to log in to Involved@TU and it automatically captures your attendance once you successfully scan that QR. It does typically require you to do duo. So sometimes you have to scan it twice. That is the simplest way to capture attendance. The event has to exist in the system. But then when it's time for the event, you go to this event page, you come right down here where it says attendance and view QR code. You click the QR code, you save this, print it, put it in a PowerPoint presentation, do what you got to do to get it in front of your people so that at the beginning of the event, they scan it and check into the event and their attendance will automatically be captured in this event. It is per event. So you have to go into the correct event every time and pull a new QR. So this QR only represents this particular event. Every time you have the gathering, you're going to go in, you're going to get the new QR. You're going to let people see it. You're going to have them check in with their phones. Like we did today in our chat, you can also give the direct URL. that's right here, where copy URL. So if you do have an opportunity like we did to put something in the chat to check in, that's where you grab that. But I think a lot of your gatherings and events and things that's probably easier to just use the QR. Inevitably, you are going to have someone whose phone doesn't work. You're going to have someone who the QR just won't work for. There is a way for you to manually add attendance. This can happen in the moment. If someone has a laptop open, I highly suggest anytime you have a gathering, again, this could be someone's entire job on your executive board, that they are ready to track attendance in the moment, but it can also happen after the fact. If technology totally fails you, just keep a handwritten list of everybody's name and email who was there. But the important thing is that you remember to go in when technology is back with you to add it. To do that, you click this button right here, track attendance. So again, we're talking about an individual's phone didn't work, technology failed you. Oh my gosh, like technology is failing us right now. Oh, student orgs. What are we gonna do? Let me try again. Come on. Chris, do you want to try opening another screen and just see if it's
Yeah,
me or
give me
if
a
it's the whole
second.
thing?
Let me try it here.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna just try to refresh. Everybody, good vibes to involve it to you. Make it do what it needs to do. This is super important. Here's what I will also say, Chris, if we get to the point where we can't spend any more time on this, I am happy to create a video when technology is working that we can resend out to you all with these step-by-step
Let's plan for that.
instructions.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
plan for that because mine's going slow, like just like yours is. So I'm thinking it
Okay.
might be a site issue, and I
Right.
don't want to like
So
hold it up.
coming soon to a laptop near you, we will create a video that shows you how to add attendance manually so that you have an accurate record. Accuracy is one of the most important things that we need to ask you to do. And so this has to become a habit. This has to become something that you're just doing every single time you're gathering. Everybody's remembering how to do it. So this goes all the way back to the very first slide when Chris said, this information we're presenting today is so important. You cannot hold it alone. If you're the only one here for your organization, or there's only 2 of you in attendance today for your organization, please make sure that you pull other officers into this work, because this is now a requirement and it is very important, not only for compliance with the state, but for just a multi-layered situation we've got going on here at Towson that we really need you all to get into good practice doing this. So I will verbally tell you, because it's not showing me any events, so I can't show you. Once you have submitted all of your attendance on that same event page, that same manage event page, there's a button to export the attendance. That's how you get a report out. When it exports as an Excel file. So in the moments where you're asked to submit that attendance file, that's what you're going to do. You're going to go into your event and you're going to export the attendance. Or if you are using it, like Chris mentioned, maybe you need to track who's coming to your meetings, because maybe some people are no longer members. If you base your membership on you have to come to so many meetings a semester, you can pull your attendance that way and run it in Excel to see who's incoming and who hasn't. And so that is also on that same manage events page. I apologize for the technology not working for us, but we do promise you I will create that video and get it out to you in a matter of days. We'll have it out to you before the first day of classes.
Thank you, Kelly. If we can get some claps in the chat for Kelly, who really did her best through challenging technology services. Thank you, guys. I know there was a good number of questions about sorry, someone literally just buzzed my door. There was a number of questions about what do we do if it's like family members or somebody else that needs to that doesn't go to our school. You can add that, and Kelly will put that in the video. So I just want to let you know the answers to that question are coming, since I kept saying Kelly's going to show you this, Kelly's going to show you this. She is going to show you this, it's going to be a little bit later. All right, let me pop back to the presentation. And the rest of these are not nearly as complicated as these first initial ones were. So let me go into the next couple of things. We're actually going to fast forward into the future about 15 minutes of the presentation, actually maybe a little bit longer at this point, to talk about contracts. So this is part of the student org top 10. And the thing to note is that our contract process is changing for this year. And with that, if you're unsure, like, I don't even know what you mean by a contract, generally speaking, a contract is, sorry, somebody is literally knocking on my door. I apologize. Kelly, can you talk about this for me really quickly? I'm so
Yes,
sorry.
absolutely. It's okay. Let's hope it's nothing wrong. Okay, so Chris was explaining basically what a contract is used for. So contracts are legal documents that outline the terms of an agreement. The times that you would be used is any time and every time that you are bringing an outside vendor guest to campus. So we're talking about when you're having an event, if you're bringing in a DJ, if you're bringing in a speaker, if you're bringing in a performer, if you're bringing in a vendor who's providing, something external, we need a contract. The contract not only has to do with financial payment, but it also has to do with managing the risk and liability for both parties. So it talks about insurance coverage. It talks about also just the details of when this person can show up and things like, where are they going to park, that sort of thing. This is a legal document. So this is a very formal procedure. You're never going to sign a contract yourself. And in fact, you're going to learn in the financial training that there is a whole new process for contracts. And so for those of you who put 2 in the chat, if you have been doing events and you've been doing contracts, I need you to hear me now when I say the process has changed. Don't do anything until you attend your required financial training to learn about this new process. But just know that a contract can also be used even when you're not paying someone. If someone is coming into your organization to provide a service, maybe they're going to be a guest speaker for you, and you're not going to pay them, you can still do a contract with them for the risk and liability coverage. And so when you need to do that, you can reach out to our team for assistance on how to do a contract for 0 payment. But the purpose is to have that legal document about that person and the services that they're providing.
Thank you so much, Kelly. I can take it from here. Very, very quickly, if you guys are the people that have done contracts for large events in the past, it was a fillable PDF that you had to put a bunch of information in. That is gone. All you need to know from this training is that you need to submit a purchase request form, and it's going to ask you for the information that for the person that you'd like to contract. Okay, so if you're bringing a DJ, a speaker, whatever it is, you would put their information on the form. Kelly is right. The finance training is going to go into a lot more detail. The thing I want you to take away from this session specifically is that you have to submit it at least 10 days prior to your event. Okay, that's the important part. We need time to contact that person and get their information to have them sign the contract. And if you try to bring it in the day before the event, there's just not enough time for us, okay? So 10 days before the event, submit the purchase request form, and it will walk you through the steps of what you need to submit, okay? All right, next thing is no ticketing or fundraising with SGA funds. So specifically, what had happened in the past is that certain student organizations would host an event, and from the SGA financial policy, it says a student organization may not charge for any event funded by the SGA. And what was being used to circumvent this portion of the policy in the past was they would try to not charge TU students, but charging external guests for the events that were happening. However, as the policy clearly states, it says may not charge for any event funded by the SGA. So that how it is being interpreted now is that you cannot charge anyone for any event if SGA is paying for it. So if you're using budgeted funds, if you're asking for a supplemental, etc., the event needs to be free for all of attendees, okay? Why is this? SGA's funds come from student fees, and basically what was happening is they would only have a limited number of tickets for TU students, and they would hold tickets to sell to external guests. So what that ended up happening was TU students would not be able to get into the event that their student fees were helping pay for because external guests were paying to come in their place. So that wasn't equitable for those students that wanted to come to these events. So therefore, going forward, essentially can't charge if you're using SJ funds. That being said, if you did want to host an event where you're doing it as a fundraiser to raise money for your club, that is permitted, but you need to do it. You would need to self-fund the event. So that means you can't take SGA funding from a budget or otherwise. You can use the money from your own general account, okay? So if you have questions about this, I believe they will also talk about this in the SGA financial training as well. So you can hold that, but essentially, if you're asking for SGA money, just know that you have to make the event free and open to all students. Okay, this one is completely unrelated to the audit, but it is nevertheless important. So, and this came from the last year, where we had challenges with certain student organizations, or I would say certain select student organizations, or from on time to time, overstaying their reservations. So we've spent some time over the summer trying to like firm up and hopefully clarify for you all how the reservation process works for when you need to be out of your space. So when your group puts in a reservation through 25 Live, if you're a new officer, that is the platform that you use to put in your reservation for your meetings or events. You select a start and an end time. And whatever the end time that is approved for your event by the reservations department, whenever that time is, your organization has to be out of the space, because the way ECS is working through their reservations is when your event is ending, another group may be coming in. So when your event is over, you need to basically be done. There is also a field on the event form called post-event breakdown time. This is not really for meetings. This would be, let's say you were having a concert, right? And you need time to like break down the stage, etc. If you have a post-event breakdown time, then that would be the time that you would need to be out of the space. So if you had an hour after the event to get all the equipment cleaned up, that would then be the end time. Is that making sense? Give me a nod or a thumbs up or one in the chat if you got me on that. So essentially, all right, perfect. I see some thumbs up. Okay. So essentially, either out by the time your reservation ends. Where we ran into the most challenges was when the buildings would be closing with meetings that were happening late at night. So at the time that the union is closing, the student building managers, they need to close the building by a specific time. And if your organization has a meeting or rehearsal that is going up until the end of that meeting time, it is preventing and you don't leave by the end of your reservation, it is preventing the building from closing. So what ECS is offering to do, and I think this is very nice of them, and it'll hopefully help with this, is if your organization has a meeting that goes up to when the building closes and the ECS building manager is going to come by, I put around 15 minutes. That's what they're going to try to do, but they can't be at every room simultaneously. So they will come by and they're going to give you a courtesy reminder that, hey, there's 15 minutes before the building closes. Please start wrapping up your activities. So at that time, when you get that reminder, be like, oh, we need to start cleaning up our practice. We need to start getting through our final things so that you can be out by the time the building's going to close. So you should be fully out of the space by the time your reservation ends. What we have asked the building managers to do is that they are required, if your organization is overstaying the time, to report your organization that you were not out of the space by the time the building is closing. And the reason for this is we want to make sure we're following up with you about what is preventing you from basically complying with making sure the building manager can do their job. The building managers that work for ECS are students, so they're just trying to do their jobs. They need to close down the buildings. And if an organization takes an extra 30, 40 minutes to try to break things down after the reservation had ended, that really holds up them being able to do their jobs and close the buildings when they're required to. So if your group is overstaying, you will get reported, and then you can expect an email from either my office or from the Student Accountability Restorative Practices office, okay? And then if a group is being, I don't expect this of any of you, but if you're being extremely non-compliant, like refusing to leave the space or, significant time has passed, the building manager is authorized to call TUPD to have them come and basically I won't say kick you out of the building, but you got to go. I don't expect this to be a big challenge, but I just want to make sure you guys are aware. If you guys are closing, whatever your reservation time is, you should be out of the space by the time your reservation ends. And you can expect to get at least roughly a 15-minute reminder from the building manager to make sure that you're aware of that. Okay. All right. And then the last change that we have is the events with alcohol policy. This policy has been updated. We're not going to go through it in this presentation. The student org resource page that Kelly was showing you on Involved It To You has the updated policy there. It's also going to be here in this PowerPoint, which you'll get a copy of. Not many of our groups do events with alcohol, so I don't expect this will affect many of you, if honestly any of you this semester. But just know, if you are planning to do any events with alcohol this semester, there is a policy for it, and you should review that before you start down the path of holding your event. You would also need to mark this on the reservation form when you're turning in your 2-5 live form, but just be aware that the policies have shifted. So depending on what you're trying to do, just make sure you're in compliance when you're organizing that event. All right. And then the last thing, which I didn't put as new information, this is more of just a reminder. So, and we had a couple situations that came up this past year. So, basically, part of being a student organization on Towson's campus is that you are a student organization and not a business. And specifically from our student org registration policy is that organizations must not be connected to a commercial enterprise and must not be for commercial purpose. So we want to just make sure you guys understand that, like, we encourage you to explore your interests, your passions, etc. But if your organization is tipping into attempting to make profits, paying members, etc., those are not activities of a student organization. Those are activities of a business. So I want to give you a couple examples of things that where is the line. So definitely is a big no. No members or officers can be paid or receive personal financial benefit for club activities. So student organizations are not for personal profits. So if you're raising money for members of your club, like, that's not appropriate, and that would be like the first really big red flag. The organization itself may not be for profit. So part of being a student organization is exploring interests and hosting things around of what your organization's purpose is. But your purpose can't be just to amass funds as a group. So we understand that you will need some funds to pursue your activities. That is different than trying to raise money for yourselves as a group. And then lastly, another big red flag that you may be operating as a business would be you cannot contract services for compensation or, so to speak, take on clients. So this would just be like, hey, we need X. I'm going to give you a baking example in just a second. So let's say you are the baking club, and and somebody's like, yeah, we would like to get custom cakes designed, and you're taking personal, like, custom orders for individuals and delivering them across campus, right? That would be a situation where it's like you are now contracting services to individuals. What is permitted, however, would be fundraising. So if you wanted to host a bake sale where people could come, get your baked good supplies and make money that way, that would be okay. If you wanted to be, pursue a sponsorship where someone's like, hey, we're going to give you a bunch of baking flour, so you bake your cakes with this type of flour, you could accept that as a student organization and not be quote unquote for profit. And then lastly on this, if you're unsure about, like, if your group is crossing a line or you're trying to explore something new, and you're like, does this push us into a business realm? Just email me and we can have a chat about it, so we can make sure that you're basically staying in line with what is permitted. Okay. All right. With that, we are at 2:28. What we're going to do here in a second is we're going to move to the treasurer's workshop. So I'm going to welcome Madison in just a moment. But before I do that, Abby, if you have the link already ready, can you please put in the chat the link to the Career Center section? So the Career Center, if you are a graduate group, and you know who you are, Caitlin, I saw your message earlier. You've emailed back and forth with me. For this next 30-minute session, you should go to the link Abby's going to put into the chat. So please go there. For everybody else, you should remain here for the treasurer's workshop. And we have joining us Madison Allen. I believe, Madison, are you on the call?
Yes, I am.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to turn it over to Madison. Madison, you should be able to share your screen and you can go ahead and take it away.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and share. Can I just like get some verbal confirmation that you guys can see my screen, okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh wait, no, I can't see your screen yet.
No.
I can see you.
No.
It's
Oh,
just a black
No, it's
box.
black.
Okay, you can see your screen.
It's up
we can
now.
see it. We can see it
Now
now. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and hide that. And you guys said we're all good, so perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Hi, everybody. My name is Madison Allen, and I'm the treasurer for the 105th administration of the Student Government Association. And I'm just gonna go ahead and give you all the treasurer's workshop presentation today. I have a lot of information to cram in 30 minutes, so I'm gonna try to make it quick as possible, especially because I know you guys have a break after. But first, let me make sure everything's actually clicking. Yep. Okay, perfect. We're good. So first, I'm going to begin talking about the SGA funding source. So all undergraduate students pay the Student Government Association fees. These fees make up the SGA annual budget, which prioritizes supporting student resources, student organizations, and the SGA department. The SGA fees for fiscal year 2026 are $58 per semester for full-time students and $9 per credit hour for part-time students. So getting into the request timelines, it's very important to understand the request timelines related to requesting student organization semester budgets. Qualified groups can request a semester budget each semester, and then groups who are submitting a budget this fall, so that would be fall 2025, are requesting funds that will be spent in the spring semester. So that'll be spring 2026. And then when this process rolls around again, when this process rolls around again in the spring, so spring 2026, student organizations would be requesting money for fall 2026. So now we'll actually get into some of the requirements that you need to have a semester budget or to request one from SGA. So first, your organization must be Tiger Stripes Package 3 or 4. You have to attend the Treasurer's Workshop, which you all are doing now. You'll need to attend the mandatory SGA finance training that Chris mentioned earlier. And you'll have to submit you'll have to submit an initial budget and also attend a FAC meeting. So this semester and ongoing, these will now be mandatory and required for the budget committee to review your final budget and hear your budget presentation. Discussing the final budget, you'll need to submit it on time with all of the necessary components. So first, you'll need to include the provided spreadsheet. I will email this to the treasurer and primary contact who is listed on Involved at TU, so please be sure that you use the correct spreadsheet and not one from a previous year. The spreadsheet for this year, it'll be green, and I'll go ahead and show that on the next slide so you guys can reference what I'm talking about. You'll also need to include research. So when we get a little later into the presentation, I'll discuss the components of budget research and pretty much what I'll be looking for when we go over it. Lastly, and arguably one of the most important components would be a visual presentation. So this can be done by whatever means of your choosing, whether you want to use PowerPoint, Canva, or Google Slides. It should essentially be combining the components of your spreadsheet with your budget research. And then you'll have to attend a budget hearing, which is basically when you'll give the presentation and we'll take our time to deliberate on that. You'll also have to fundraise 15% of the allocated budget. So groups who have not fundraised past allocations will not be eligible to receive new SGA funds until the requirement is completed. And then most importantly, you cannot be in debt with SGA. So this is the spreadsheet that I was talking about previously. We can see how on the right side, everything is in a forest green, and then my name is also in the top left corner. So this will let you know that you're submitting the correct spreadsheet. So at the top, you'll need to fill in all of the important information. So this is going to be the full unabbreviated name of your student organization, the name and email address of your treasurer, and also the name and email address of your president. You'll also need to include the email for your student organization. If you guys don't have one, but most of you should, you can just leave it blank or just input NA. So later in the presentation, I will be going into the different types of accounts, but for right now, I just want to discuss what you guys should be putting in each of the columns. So in the event column, we only want the name of your event. You don't have to put anything else in this section aside from what your event is called. In the description column, we don't want a description of your event, but we want a description of the services you're requesting. So if you're requesting a DJ, if it's DJ Lucky, for example, you would just say DJ Lucky. If you're requesting TU Catering, you would just say TU Catering. That's all we need in that section, and you'll be giving us more information in your presentation. Lastly, in the requested amount columns, you need to put how much your item or service costs. So in this column, make sure that you're giving us an exact amount and make sure it's the same amount that's being shown in your research and your budget presentation. So in this section, you want to be sure that you don't overestimate and you also don't overestimate. Give us the exact number that you're going to put in the rest of your documentation. All right, so moving on to the student organization semester budget process, there are a lot of deadlines you should know regarding the process. I would recommend taking a picture of these. I'll also reiterate them at the end of the presentation. But budget information will be released on Monday, September 22nd. An email will be sent to whoever is listed on involved at TU. So that'll be the primary contact of the organization as well as the treasurer. So just make sure, I know we discussed it earlier, make sure that all of that information is updated and accurate so you guys receive the relevant information. Again, you guys have to attend the treasurer's workshop, which you all are doing now. So just make sure that you're signed in so we have a record of your attendance. As I stated earlier, initial budget submissions and FAC meetings are going to be mandatory. Initial budgets are going to be due on October 10th, and FAC meetings will take place from October 13th to October 17th. This will make the budgeting process smoother on our end and allow you all to receive necessary feedback before submitting your final budgets. The final budgets are going to be due on October 20th, and there will be no exceptions or any extensions. So make sure that your information is submitted accurately and on time. Lastly, you'll need to attend your budget hearing. These will take place from October 27th to October 31st, and this will be where you give your presentation. This is going to be a 10 to 15-minute meeting where the SGA Senate Budget Committee will hear your budget request. And then finally, before the semester is finalized, the SGA Budget Student Senate will vote on the budget allocations, and your organization will receive information on whether your budget has been approved or denied. So I'll be emailing that information before the semester ends, and you'll know whether your organization did get a budget or whether you guys did not get a budget. So now we're going to move into the actual funding and processes, and I'll begin with an introduction to Tiger Stripes. Excuse me. So all groups that plan to use SGA funding must be registered as an organization through the Office of Student Activities. Tiger Stripes is the registered student organization incentive program that provides access to campus resources based on completing a series of requirements. To benefit from SGA funding, organizations must be package 2, 3, or 4, but only package 3 and 4 can receive an SGA semester budget. This slide basically goes into the requirements and benefits of each package, and I'm just going to discuss some of the benefits. So for package 2, you have access to some grant funds and can be approved for up to 2 supplemental requests. Package 3, you have access to an SGA budget allocation and can be approved for up to 3 supplemental requests. And then package 4, which is the highest you can go, you have access to an SGA budget allocation with travel. You can receive $150 a year for an organizational banner, and that's once a year to be clear. And then you can also receive $125 for food for group meetings. So these are the accounts I was discussing earlier. SGA has 4 different account categories where a group can request funds. That's going to be the activity, equipment, printing or advertising, and travel accounts. So in the slides that are upcoming, I'm going to delve into those a little bit more to give you guys more context, but I'm going to start here just so you guys know what the maximums are. So I want to start by saying that each group will have their own general account, and that's where money you guys fundraise will be stored. SGA never uses that. SGA never touches that. So that is money for your organization to keep that will roll over. And for the other SGA accounts, for the other 4 accounts, there are limits on each of them. So for the activity account, the limit is going to be $2,500. For the equipment account, the limit is going to be $3,000. For the advertising account, it's going to be $1,000. And then for the travel account, the maximum is going to be $2,000. So as an organization, you all will have the opportunity to choose one account to increase the maximum by $1,000, but that's not something that's going to occur every single time. It's definitely a rare occasion, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. So getting into the different types of accounts, I'll begin with the activity account. The activity account is the backbone of any on-campus event, and it funds a variety of things. The activity account cannot be used to fund any event decorations. So it is limited to a $700 allocation for food per event, and it is also limited to a $700 allocation for DJs and other forms of entertainment per event. Moving on, I'll get into the equipment account. So the equipment account is meant to be used for events and conference services, which is commonly known as ECS, and other equipment rental charges. So basically, your equipment account is going to fund the technology you need to support your event. Your group must use the ECS price list when submitting your funding request. And if you're using any vendor outside of ECS or any outside source, you'll need written approval from them before you submit your request. Next, we have the advertising and printing accounts. So all advertising and printing funds should be utilized through campus resources such as TU Art Services and the Copy Center. The price list for these can both be located online. So organizations can allocate a maximum of $150 for flyers per event, and this account can also be used to fund the large advertisement screens and on campus and large posters that you guys see for events as well. The last account I'm going to talk about is the travel account. And the travel account seems a little complicated, but everything's going to make a little bit more sense when I explain it. So the travel account can only be used by groups who are Tiger Stripes Package 4. And there are multiple regulations when it comes to travel for those Package 4 student organizations. So Towson has multiple transportation resources, including minivans, 10-passenger vans, shuttles, charter buses, and way more options. But you should always use TU Transportation Services to start with planning travel. Their information can be found on Towson's website as well. If your organization does decide to use a personal vehicle, you will be reimbursed using the mileage reimbursement process. So currently for the state, the reimbursement rate is 70 cents per mile. So remember, when you're getting your mileage reimbursement and tag, just remember to account for round trip mileage. So that's to your destination as well as back to Towson's campus. So hotels can be used if your travel takes you more than 20 miles from Towson's campus, but there are restrictions on hotels as well. So there can be a maximum of 4 people per room per night with a maximum of 3 nights total that can be booked. And then conference or convention registration can be allocated for up to $600 per person. Now I'm going to go ahead and get into budget research. So when your organization is requesting a semester budget, it's absolutely imperative that you submit budget research. Research can include a screenshot or a saved file of projected costs. So for example, if you're asking for money for event catering, you could request a quote from Tiger Hospitality or go to the TU Catering website and add your items in and take a screenshot of what that estimated price is going to be. For mileage reimbursement, you would save Google or Apple Maps, whichever you prefer, however you decide to get your directions. And most importantly, you want to note the distance between Towson's campus and your destination, as well as the route. You just want to make sure that you include how many miles it's going to take so that you can get reimbursed properly. So again, make sure you do this round trip. So coming from Towson's campus to your destination, and then from your destination back to Towson's campus. So when the budget committee deliberates on your allocation, funds can only be allocated to requests that have proof of research. So when you attend your initial budget and your FAC meetings, will assist you to make sure that your requests are appropriate. Did that go? I don't think it did. Okay, so this is just going to give a research example. So on the left, this is pretty much a visual presentation. It doesn't necessarily have to look like this, but this is a pretty good example of what you should do. So there is the name and description of the event that's on the top slide, and then they have their research included in the presentation as well. So this research is from TU Catering, and it's basically just showing how much money they're requesting from their activity account to cover the cost of that food. In the middle is just additional research from TU Catering, the event name, the date it's happening, things of that nature. And then on the right is going to be a screenshot of the budget request spreadsheet. So like I said, in the event column, it's just the name of the event. Nothing more needs to go there. In the description column, you have the item that you are requesting. So for example, you see food, DJ, refreshments, TU Catering. And then lastly, in the requested amount column, it's the exact amount that you're going to put on your research document and in your presentation. So again, make sure all of that information is the exact same. Make sure everything is transferable. So going into budget changes, this only occurs if your organization needs to shift where your funds are in your allocated budget. So to do this, you would submit a budget change to move those funds, and this form is on Involved at TU. But to do a budget change, there are a few restrictions. So some of the restrictions include that it must be submitted at least 10 days before the related event. Up to $500 can be approved or denied by the treasurer, and more than $500 requires Senate approval. There's only a maximum of 2 changes per semester and 4 per the entire academic year, and I can only approve 2 changes total. So now I'm going to discuss the grace period regarding budget changes. So in the first 2 weeks after the treasurer's workshop, so 2 weeks after today, new student organization executive boards may propose changes to the organization's budget by contacting me if the overall amount of the budget is not increased. So fundraising requirements will adjust contingent to the amount of requested funds, and then outside of the deadline, it will not change. Getting into fundraising, groups who request an SGA semester budget or supplemental funds are required to fundraise 15% of the total allocated amount. So an example of this would be if your group receives $950, your group would be responsible for fundraising that $142.50 during the semester you receive the allocation. So at the end of the semester, on the last day of class, December 8th, you'll have to deposit any fundraising money that you made to the Auxiliary Services Office in West Village. And this just makes sure that you complete your fundraising requirement and you'll be in good standing to receive another semester budget. So all of the funds that you deposit will be available quickly for use, and they'll go into your general account. And then again, to reiterate, SGA never takes or uses a group's fundraised money. And most importantly, I do want everybody to take note of this, especially with a lot of the financial policy changing. Student organizations are absolutely not permitted to have off-campus bank accounts or use third-party financial vendors like Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, Zelle, any of those. You cannot use them because they do break financial policy, and they can result in your organization being held accountable through the university accountability process. So getting into supplemental request processes, only groups that are Tiger Stripes Package 2, 3, and 4 have access to these supplemental requests. They are meant to provide funding for unforeseen circumstances, and they can't be asked for every day. It's not a regular occurrence. So discussing how the process actually happens, it occurs through the Senate, and a group must request these supplemental funds at least 4 weeks in advance. It'll go to Senate leadership, then Senate leadership will assign a senator to write the finance bill to be submitted for first reading, and then if or when the funds are approved, it will be added to a group's budget, and the 15% fundraising requirement will stand. So supplemental restrictions do include, they're limited to a single event. They can include multiple accounts. So if you'd like to use your activity and travel, you can do that, but it cannot exceed account maximums. It must follow financial policy, and it cannot be used for reimbursement. So while we're on the topic of alternative funding, SJ offers multiple grants that often don't get used. So I do want to spotlight those in this presentation. So we have a collaboration grant. I'm not going to read all of these, but just to name a few, we do have a collaboration grant, which is meant to promote collaborations between different student organizations. We have a SAFE grant, which is meant to assist with the cost of security for large-scale events. We have a sustainability fund, which is meant to promote sustainable projects. And we even have a weekend retention fund, which allows student organizations to host events on campus on the weekends with the objective of keeping students on campus. So all of these grants will have different requirements, and more information about alternative funding can be found on Towson's website as well as the SJ page as well. So discussing what items we do not fund, SGA cannot fund all student organization requests. So I'm going to talk about a few of the restrictions that are on this page. So any fundraisers that student organizations are having to fundraise money for SGA, we cannot fund those. Decorations such as balloons, tablecloth, streamers, we cannot fund that either. And then another really good example is non-consumable goods that could become individual possessions. So something that you can keep, we unfortunately cannot fund that either. So going into more about what we cannot fund, SGA does not fund events that are exclusive activities or events that are not open to the entire student body. And student organizations also may not charge for any event that is funded by the Student Government Association. So this is just getting a little bit more into things that we cannot fund. So the top says the SGA will not fund events that are discriminatory, closed, or exclusive to the student body. Events whose primary purpose is to proselytize a religion or faith, and events advocating for a particular political campaign or person. So for honor societies and individual Greek chapters, they cannot receive SGA funding in this sense because a lot of their things are exclusive, but they can apply for alternative funding. So they can apply for a collaboration grant and whatever other alternative funding we offer. But this is only if the event they're having is open to all students. So if it's closed off specifically just for them, we unfortunately cannot fund that either. So getting towards the end of the presentation, I do again want to reiterate these very important dates. So again, these are very important to take note of, especially if you're trying to request a budget allocation from SGA. Initial budgets will be due on Friday, October 10th. And along with that, in the FAC meeting, they are mandatory in the budget process this year. FAC meetings again will be taking place from October 13th to October 17th. Final budgets will be due on Monday, October 20th. Again, no exceptions and no extensions will be made, so please make sure you submit all of your information on time. Lastly, fundraising deposits are due on the last day of classes, which is this year, Monday, December 8th, 2025. And then lastly, did you guys have any questions? You can put them in the chat, and I also left my contact information up here. Preferably, if you have any questions regarding your student organization, go through the SGA Trez email, but I also left my personal up here just in case you all needed it. Okay, and that's the end of my presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Chris.
Okay, don't go anywhere, Madison, because there was a lot of questions in the chat. So
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, so we were trying to keep up with them as they were coming in, but I know not we might have had everything answered. I'm going to answer Aaliyah's, and then if anybody else has other questions, I'll invite you, because we do have a little bit of time, to either unmute or to re-put your questions in the chat. So Aaliyah asked the question, so I want to collect money from my members. How should I do that? Should I have them write checks? Yes. Sorry, Aaliyah, I was typing it and didn't come across. Yes, you could have them write checks made out to Towson University with your organization's name put on the memo line, and those can be deposited directly into your organization's account at the Auxiliary Services Office. Or alternatively, if they're like, well, I don't have a check, or that's not convenient for me to write a check, you could have them go to the Auxiliary Services Office and either make their own cash deposit, and they'll get a deposit slip back showing that they made the deposit, and they can show you that, like, hey, I went and I made this deposit on behalf of the organization. So you have a couple different options for how you can get it. I believe they can also take credit cards at the Auxiliary Services Office too. Sorry, and I'll turn back, Madison, I'll let you answer these questions since this is technically but if you're not sure about any, I see Carolyn's here. We have some finance team people. You guys can have this space to answer questions.
Yeah, I'm going through now just to see. Again, I believe that Abby posted links in the chat earlier to sign in. So there's nothing specific you have to sign in for the Treasurer's Workshop. Just make sure that you're signed into the general presentation, and we'll be able to go ahead and get that information. So you guys don't have to worry too much about that. I see Missy answering a lot of the questions. So honestly, we might be good. I see somebody asking about Tiger Stripes Package 1. So Tiger Stripes, excuse me, Tiger Stripes Package 1s, those are essentially new organizations. So you will not have access to a semester budget, and you also don't have access to supplemental requests. So when you achieve Tiger Stripes Package 2, 3, or 4, that's when you'll have access to SGA funds. And again, only packages 3 and 4 will receive a semester allocation from us.
Also, sorry.
If I could note really quick, there's a
Okay.
question in the chat. Hi, everyone. I'm Carolyn Harris. I'm the Director of Student Activities and the advisor for SGA. And there was a note from Tiffany about being confused about how to spend funds that are not SGA allocated. So if your group does a fundraiser, receives, you've deposited that money, you always have access to that money. Your group has access to that money. The training the external training, so the SGA finance trainings that will start tomorrow and go for the next 2 weeks, will teach you how to utilize that money. The processes for spending money through the campus are the same across the board, no matter where your money comes from. So if you want to spend that money, you're welcome to do that. Internally, the SGA staff indicate where the money is going to come from based on whether or not you received money from SGA or if you wanted to utilize your general account money. We'll teach you more about that, so make sure you attend one of the workshops. All the information is on Involved at TU. And I'm going to also drop a link in the chat for where you find the dates for all of the SGA semester budget process. Another question that was asked pretty often is, do you have to request an SGA semester budget? And the answer is no. If your organization doesn't need any funding, you don't have to request it. But if you want to spend money, SGA would like to give it to you. Just make sure you follow all the processes that Madison just outlined.
Thank you.
Sorry, since I see a couple questions about Tiger Stripes coming in, how does this integrate with the budget process? My recommendation to you is if you're interested or thinking about requesting a budget for spring 2026 and you're not familiar with the Tiger Stripes process, I'm going to be doing a breakout session in this space starting at 3:10. I'll recommend you attend that, and I will go into detail about what are you eligible for. I see people like, how hard is it to go? Someone asked me, can you go from package 1 to 4 in a single semester? The answer to that is yes, and I will talk about that in detail. So if you're thinking about trying to get a budget for next spring, I would encourage you, if you don't know about Tiger Stripes, come to my session so I can teach you those details.
I see a lot of people asking about the timeline. Miss Carolyn just posted the link in the chat that will have all of the dates that I outlined in the presentation. So just make sure you save this or take some type of picture of it just so you're aware of the dates for the budget process. Somebody asked what package we're in. I believe it was Abby who also posted that in the chat. If you go to Involved at TU, and I know my thing isn't necessarily about Tiger Stripes, but if you go to Involved at TU, there's going to be something that says Tiger Stripes Doc. It's a spreadsheet and it will let you know if your organization is on there. It will let you know what Tiger Stripes package you are and what you're expected to be for fall 2025. Okay. If your current package level states doesn't meet requirements, what does that mean for fall 2025? That means that you most likely did not complete everything that you needed to do to be able to receive an SGA budget this year. So you unfortunately would not get it for fall 2025. So you would not have any SGA funding unless you ask for a supplemental request. So again, packages 2, 3, and 4 can have access to supplemental requests. Package 1 does not get anything from SGA.
If your status on the Tiger Strips Google document, the link, Madison, you've done such a wonderful job, I gotta say. It's the first link when you go to Involved at TU. If you scroll down to the bottom right, it says campus links. The first link says Tiger Stripes Google Doc. I put the actual link into the chat. That has all of your packages that as they currently stand. If it says did not meet minimum requirements, what that means is your organization last semester did not properly re-register your club or missed the Student Group Leadership Summit. So you're currently on quote unquote thin ice. But after attending today and properly re-registering, essentially your club status will get reset back to package 1 as long as you properly meet all the minimum requirements this semester. So if you fail again, then you get an email from me or Abby to come meet with us to see if your club is still an active group. I know somebody else asked this question, and then I do want to give you guys a break. I will say I'm happy to hang out here and answer questions. I will say if you have a lot of Tiger Stripe specific questions, definitely come to my session because I promise you I will go into a lot of detail. It'll probably answer most of the questions that I've seen in the chat so far. But what I will say is the Tiger Stripes Google Doc for the upcoming semesters, like full calendar of opportunities, hasn't been fully posted. Abby's first day is today. It's on her first project list to like update that this week. So you'll see them coming in. We have lots of really cool opportunities. I think some you guys are going to be very excited about for how you can earn points this semester. And there's a really diverse group of different types of workshops and things that you can do to gain your points. So all of that will be explained in my session, though. Okay, it is 2:58. Really quickly, just as a reminder, Abby, if you can put into the chat the link to the Involved at TU event again. Abby's going to put the link to the summit event. For the next 50 minutes after 3:10, you're going to get a 10-minute break. You can go grab some food, get a drink, use the restroom, whatever you want to do. In that time at 3:10, be in your session that you want to be for the breakouts. There's 4 different options. This room is going to be the Tiger Stripes breakout session. So if you want the Tiger Stripes, stay here. Otherwise, there's sessions with the Career Center, Accessibility and Disability Services, and OIIE. And then there is also Event and Conference Services, which is doing a session on event planning. So if you have a lot of questions about room reservations and what types of policies are there related to student organizations doing events on campus, they're going to go into a lot of detail about how to plan events on campus. Okay, so make your choice. If you have multiple officers here, my recommendation to you would be you don't go to the same session, divide up, private message each other, say, hey, I'm going to go here, hey, I'm going to go there. All the sessions will be recorded. So if you're the only one here from your organization, go to whichever one speaks to you the most, and then know that you'll be able to get the information from the other sessions afterward. Okay. But otherwise, enjoy a 10-minute break, and we'll be back here at 3:10 to start the next session. Okay. Oh, final reminder, after your breakout session at 4 o'clock, come back to this main session. There is a checkout procedure / quiz at the very end about some of the things we talked about. Hopefully we're getting everything through to you guys. So we'll do that at the very end, so you get credit for checking out. All right, go ahead, enjoy your breaks.
But you didn't. Good. You could have. If you did, then you would.
All right, hello everybody. Gonna give it about one more minute, but we're gonna get ready to start. If you're staying in this space, this will be the Tiger Stripe session. Abby, just as a friendly reminder, if you can check in on the other sessions to remind them to press record. Thanks. As we promised many people, we're gonna have these recorded. We don't want to make sure we miss any of them. All right. I'm gonna share my screen here. Please give me a thumbs up, or we can see it in the chat if you can see the presentation. Okay, thank you, Nora. Saw your thumbs up. Appreciate it. Okay. All right, so thank you guys for joining me for the Tiger Stripes Fall 2025 presentation. So in this session, I'm going to go into detail about the Tiger Stripes program, which is our incentive program for student organizations. So I hope to answer most of your questions, as I know there was a lot of questions percolating in the chat earlier. So I'm hoping that if you have questions as we're going along, please throw them in the chat. Abby, she'll be back in just a moment. She's very well versed in the program. I will also do my best as we're going through to answer the questions as they arise. Thank you for all the thumbs up, everybody. All right, let's hop in. So starting off, what is the Tiger Stripes program? So as I mentioned, it is our incentive program for student organizations, and it is broken down into 4 different packages. You heard Madison talking about packages 1, 2, 3, and 4. And essentially, the thought process behind the Tiger Stripes program is to reward student organizations with additional benefits for your contributions to campus life. And we look at this from a very broad lens. So whether that be hosting events for students to attend, participating in community service, taking on additional training so you're more successful as officers of your organizations. All these things contribute to what we're trying to encourage through the Tiger Stripes program. We have 3 primary focuses that we use to kind of categorize the events that are collaboratively hosted by various offices with our office for you all. And those are leadership development, fostering community, and well-being. And when you look at the calendar that I'm going to talk about later, you'll see that they're actually color-coded by these 3 general buckets of different types of programs, okay? You've heard also people talking about Tiger Points. So Tiger Points is essentially it's a fictional currency that we've made up that the Tiger Stripes program works on. So if you think of any sort of like extra credit system that you may have had in a class, Tiger Points are essentially those. You can earn points by completing certain objectives throughout the semester. So essentially, the couple things that are important about Tiger Points is Tiger Points have to be earned during the current semester to be count toward the end total that you get for this semester. So everybody starts out at 0. So right now, nobody has any Tiger Points. And you're going to have opportunities throughout the semester to pick up points as you go along. The easiest place to go will be involved it to you. The Tiger Stripes Google document has all of the opportunities will be listed there. They're not on there just yet, but just know that I'm going to show you an example of how they all appear from last semester. So you can kind of get a sense of what are these point opportunities look like, okay? All right, then how does it all work? So, talking about these different packages and the benefits, basically similar to kind of what Madison was talking about, how this semester you're applying for a budget for next semester, the Tiger Stripes program works the same exact way. So everything that you're doing this semester is going to earn you a point total by the end of the semester. And you're going to be somewhere either between 0 and infinity points, right? Whatever threshold you are at by the end of this semester, that is going to give you a new package status that's going to go into effect at the beginning of the spring. So it doesn't matter if you're package 1 right now or package 4 right now. At the beginning of the spring, you're going to have a completely new package, or maybe the same package depending on the number of points you do this semester. Currently, your package number is based on what your group did last semester in spring 2025. Somebody asked this question in the chat, like, how do we find out what is my package currently? So the best thing you can do is go to the Google Doc. Couple things I will mention is make sure that you are looking at the correct semester at the bottom of the page. There's lots of, fall 2025, spring 2025, fall 2024, etc. I am going to take a moment to stop the PowerPoint to actually show you what that Google Doc looks like so you can get a sense. Okay, going to share again here in just a second. Because this part is pretty important because there's a lot of information you can find on the Google document, okay? So most of the questions, and honestly, a lot of what I'm going to tell you during this presentation is all contained on this spreadsheet. So you can see down here, we're looking at spring 2025, and every student organization that's currently registered, unless they're brand new, if they started in spring 2025, you might not see them on this page, but essentially every group that registered before spring 2025 will be on the fall 2025 category here, okay? So you're going to see a number of different columns here. The first column is your actual package number. So it's going to say generally 1, 2, 3, or 4, and those are the different levels that you can achieve as a club. These 3 green columns here are the minimum requirements you need to complete as an organization to remain in good standing. So attending the summit, you're doing that today, involved at TU registration, and having an advisor on record by completing the advisor form. I'm going to talk about all of that. But then over here on the right, you're going to see tons of other columns, and you can see these random point totals down here that people have earned points through doing a variety of things. So whether it's attending the Black Student Leadership Conference, a conflict resolution workshop for student organizations, there's different events, and you can see at the top here, it'll even say like the Black Student Leadership Conference as an example, this was worth 20 points, 40 points maximum, which meant if you had 2 people go to this event, you could get 40 points for your organization. If 1 person went, it was worth 20 points, okay? You can notice as I'm hovering my mouse across the top here, it's going to give you information about every single event. So, and it will tell you even, how to go about inputting that information to receive the points. So let's use this one as an example. Participating in community service. You can get 1 point per hour per member of your group. And if you read here, it talks about, how you would log the service, etc., what counts, and then even a deadline. This was last semester, is May 13th at the bottom of when it has to be submitted. So I would recommend using this sheet as a way to find out information as you're going throughout the semester. Abby will be adding to this sheet here all of the opportunities that we've already approved for the semester. So you'll see those populated likely by the first week of class before you start classes. You'll be able to come here and see it. I see some questions in the chat. Is it always per member or per e-board member? Generally speaking, any member of your club. So you does not have to be an executive board member. Some things may be more tailored toward an executive board member or not, but our goal is to have events and activities that your entire club can participate in. So, dividing up as a club who's going to attend which things that are interesting to them is a good strategy. What tasks are the staff advisors responsible for? The only thing the staff advisor is responsible for in the entire Tiger Stripes program is they need to be the one that completes the advisor recommitment form. And I'll talk about that in just a moment. Let me pull back up the presentation. Actually, I'm still here. We mentioned this in the beginning session. If you go to just the main Involved at TU website and you scroll down, this first link here that says Tiger Stripes Google Doc, that's how you can get there in the easiest way, okay? All right, let me stop sharing. We're going to reshare the presentation. Okay. So if you looked on that sheet, we talked about the 4 different packages already, but let's break it down a little bit further of like, what does each package offer student organizations and what is required of the various packages. Package 1 is our minimum requirements for all student organizations. There's no such thing as a package 0. So essentially you need to be completing these 3 things to remain in good standing with our office. And they're not very complicated. The first is attending the Student Group Leadership Summit. You're here today. Check. Perfect. This is where you're going to learn important information, such as how to get access to various resources as a club. The second thing is to complete the Involved at TU re-registration. A lot of clubs have already done this. It's open until October 1st. This happens at the beginning of each semester, but we typically open the stuff. So for example, we will open spring registration at the end of, it'll be like during winter break. So you'll even be able to start completing the forms. Because part of this is we want to make sure, especially if people are graduating, let's say at the end of the spring semester, your new president is completing the re-registration form. And then the questions about advisors, having the advisor complete the advisor recommitment form. So in that same section I just showed you under campus links, I think it's the third option down, is advisor recommitment form. This must be completed by your advisor. And the big thing to note is that your advisor must be a full-time TU faculty or staff member. The advisor form is good for the year. So as long as you get them to complete it, that'll basically have you covered for both semesters, provided that as long as they're going to stay here working and they want to advise your club for the full year. So those are the general requirements. And the deadline for all of those three things is October 1st. That is our initial, we call the Tiger Stripes initial deadline, getting those three items in. So that's what you have to do as a club. Everything else is optional. So all of the Tiger points, you notice we haven't talked about Tiger points yet, right? Everything else is worth Tiger points, and you can get anywhere. The three thresholds we use to determine what package you are is 50, 100, or 150. And that doesn't add up. So for example, to be package 3, you don't need 50 from package 2 and then 100. It's literally just 50, 100, or 150. And essentially, at the end of the semester, you will get certain benefits depending on which package you are. And Madison kind of gave you a sneak preview as to like some of the budgeting things that you will be eligible for. The final deadline for all the Tiger points, so getting those to your point threshold, is December 8th, which is the last day of classes. So essentially, you have between now and December 8th to earn as many points as you can possibly get if you choose to go for packages 2, 3, or 4. You will notice as I go through this presentation, there's going to be a lot of text on the screen. This is not because I'm going to go over and read every single thing. This, for instance, is how to re-register your club on Involved at TU. So the short version of this is you or your primary contact on Involved at TU was emailed many times over the summer about this already, and you will continue to get reminders. But this here is basically how you re-register your club. So if your club is not re-registered, there's a number of things that are very important about re-registration. The biggest thing is that whoever fills out the re-registration form becomes the primary contact for your organization, and that's going to give you full administrative rights. So if you're the president of your club and you're not listed as the primary contact on Involved at TU, you want to make sure you do the re-registration as quickly as possible, because that's going to make sure that the emails that I send or Abby sends or you get from SGA, they go to what's on record. So if you're not listed as the primary contact, you might be missing important information, okay? But yeah, this is how to do the re-registration. I usually send it out in screenshots over email, like here's what you got to do step by step, but this is like the step-by-step instructions like listed out, okay? The minimum requirements, I talked about package 1 being the minimum already. I don't think there is going to be, but for any new organizations that start this semester, just so you guys are aware, they're automatically granted all of the granted package 1 when they start. So you start out at package 1 automatically, and they can't increase their package the first semester they are started. They would need to wait to the second semester to start earning Tiger points. There's a number of reasons for this, but essentially the biggest thing is that new organizations aren't eligible for budgeting from SGA until they've been registered for 2 full semesters, and that's per the financial policy. So if you started in the fall, that would mean the first time you could get eligible for funding would be fall 2026 from SGA. All right, so let's talk about all right, why participate? Why would you want to earn, and what can you earn as a student organization by doing the Tiger Stripes program? So let's start with package 1. These are benefits that all student organizations have access to. So just by being a club on campus, these are the key things you get. So first off is room reservations. So being able to reserve space on campus. I'm going to talk in a little bit more detail about that in a second. Tabling at the involvement fair. You're listed as an official club on Involved at TU. If you want to have a WordPress site or an email alias for your club, you are welcome to request those. Posting privileges on campus. This is both for flyers, the digital screens, electronically through things such as the master events calendar. Those are all afforded to you as a student organization. And then ability to make certain special fund requests from SGA. And Madison touched on some of those in her presentation. Okay, I'm going to start with room reservations because this is kind of like the biggest thing being a student organization that I know most of you both need and is critical for you to achieve your group objectives. So the first thing to note about reserving space on campus, generally speaking, reserving just space is free for student organizations in certain locations. So for example, reserving space in the Union, in most outdoor locations, depending on what you're doing, West Village Commons, classrooms, etc. Generally, requesting space is free, and you can usually get it set up with like tables, chairs at no cost. There is cost associated once you start requesting additional things for depending on what you're trying to do. So if you're requesting tech equipment to be set up by the ECS staff, or if you need a sound monitor because you're going to be playing music outdoors, for instance, those things could start to add costs to your event. So generally, though, being a club, you do get free space to organize on campus, and you can use them for individual meetings, events, or commonly groups may have like a weekly recurring meeting. To place a reservation, all reservations go through the 25 Live platform. Okay, 25 Live. Before you can place any reservation, though, you need to have an authorized requester for your organization. Student organizations can have up to 2 people be authorized requesters. It can be the president and the vice president, a president and the secretary, the president and a events coordinator. It doesn't matter who they are, but they have to complete a training on Blackboard before they can actually put in reservations on behalf of your club. They will not approve them. So if you look on the right-hand side, I'm not going to go through this. This was emailed out over the summer back in July about needing to become an authorized requester. These are the steps for how to get to the Blackboard training and do the Blackboard training. Once you do the Blackboard training, then you're eligible to start putting in the request for 25 Live. The key thing to note is that your training must be renewed every July 1st. What that means is even if you were an authorized requester last spring, you need to redo the training to relist yourself as an authorized requester for this semester, okay? So no matter what, if you haven't already done the training and you want to put in room reservations on behalf of your club, make sure that you do the training at your earliest convenience. It's not very hard. You could literally do it today after the summit, but this is essentially where you have to go. If you're really keen on doing this immediately, if you also go to the ECS website, towson.edu/ECS, you can find these steps on the facility reservations page. The last thing I'm going to note about room requests is that space on this campus, there's over 200 student organizations, tons of departments, things are happening all the time. Like the space goes quick. So I would recommend, especially if you have bigger events you're trying to do later in the semester, even if you're not 100% sure on the date, like get with your executive board as soon as possible and be like, yo, let's make a decision about this and figure out what we want to do it. So you make sure you get your request in before too much time has passed. All right, next thing is the involvement fair. So just by being a club on campus, I get lots of requests from people that are not clubs trying to get to the involvement fair. This is one of the benefits of being a club. You're eligible to have a table at the involvement fair. It is not a guaranteed table though. So I will note that we've had registration open since May for the involvement fair, and we're at like 175 groups have already signed up. And our capacity is about 190. Give or take. So what that means is if your group hasn't signed up for the involvement fair, I highly encourage you, if you want to be at the fair, to fill that out as quick as possible. But by being a club, you're eligible to request a table. Additionally, you are listed we've talked a lot about Involved at TU today, but you will be listed officially as a club on Involved at TU. This is where we direct students to find out about your clubs. I get asked a lot, like, hey, what types of opportunities do you have on campus? And I send them here. So all the information you've listed for them, how to contact you and get involved. This is one of the big benefits of being a registered club. There's a form for this on the campus link section of Involved at TU, but if you're a student organization that wants its own WordPress site, which is like a modified website, not a lot of groups use websites anymore, but if you want that, that is an opportunity. Or if you would like to get a Towson domain email address, the example I'm using here is homecoming@towson.edu. That's a way, there's a way for us to request that from OTS for your club. Your advisor would be the one that basically would get the management access, and they could assign who has access between years to use that email address. Okay, and then posting privileges on campus. So this is another big benefit of being a club on campus, that you can post flyers. Specifically, there's a couple locations that are open for student organizations, but the first step for posting any physical flyer is to get the flyer stamped from the SJ office, which is in 263 in the University Union. So before you do any posting, that's what you're going to want to do, is make sure your flyers are stamped that you are an official organization at Towson. Otherwise, your flyers are going to get torn down or not approved by the various buildings you're trying to put them in. All right, key spaces, people try to post flyers generally. Academic buildings, the general rule is you need to follow the rules of that building. So that means seeking permission from the dean's office of the building you want to place the flyers in. Each academic building has their own posting guidelines. I don't know why this went twice. But the reality is, I put this here, student org resource page that Kelly was talking about earlier on Involved at TU. There is a resource here, and this link will take you there. I'm not going to click it right now, but it kind of, this is from last year. Like we compiled, I say we, the student organization ambassadors, bless their hearts. Like they went through and contacted every building and compiled a document that had all of the posting procedures for every academic space on campus, and what you would need to do to post there. So that's all listed there. We will be doing some checking with them to see if anything's changed, but most of the buildings keep them fairly consistent. But you could use that as a resource to kind of post around campus. Residence halls are super easy. You just take 20 copies of your stamped flyers to the HRL main office in Marshall Hall, and they're going to go ahead and put one up in every hall for you. All right, and then the union, we do not allow, there's no posting locations for flyers in the union anymore, but you can put advertisements on the digital screens. And actually, I have a slide. I'm going to show you this. It's not in this presentation. It'll be in the next presentation when we come back from the break. But there's a slide that will actually show like how you can request ads from design and graphic services to have your basically free of charge for you as a student organization put up in the union. So you'll see a slide for that later, but that is an option for you. There's other options for electronic advertising. So Involved at TU, like we've talked a lot about posting events on there already. You can definitely promote yourselves there. TU Today, the email that comes out to all of campus every morning, your events can get actually put into that as well. They come automatically loaded. There's an algorithm. Don't ask me. I don't know exactly how it works, but essentially events that are posted on events.towson.edu, you are eligible to post events on events.towson, and it will load into the master events calendar, like events happening today, if it's selected. I don't know how it gets selected, but essentially, if you put it on the master events calendar, there's a chance it'll also be emailed out to all of campus. All right, and then Madison talked about the special fund request, so I'm going to skip this, but there's some details about like if you're requesting funds, there are certain funds that our package 1 groups are eligible for, although the funding is generally limited. So these are 2 of the examples that came from her presentation. All right, so those are the things that all groups basically get just by being a club on Towson's campus. What do you get for choosing to potentially invest a little bit more, do some Tiger points? And a lot of it comes down to funding. So let's talk about packages 2 and 3. So for package 2, you would be eligible for 2 supplemental requests from SGA. And at package 3, you get 3 supplemental requests and these 3 accounts: activity, equipment, and advertising, that you can request a budget. Madison did a good job of explaining what a supplemental request is. So this here just gives you some information about how to go about submitting a request from SGA. They're not guaranteed. They must be made 4 weeks in advance, essentially, but they're for a single event or activity, but you can have multiple things. So for example, if you're hosting a barbecue, you could pay for food, you could get a DJ, you could get flyers to promote the barbecue. All of that could be one supplemental request from SGA. If there are any graduate groups here, this was part of the reason why I did not have you attend the treasurer's workshop. You received a separate email, but SGA funding is only for undergraduate student organizations. And then budgeting, these are the 3 accounts you get at package 3. So activity, equipment, and advertising. At package 4, you then get travel. Just know that if you are wanting a budget, just because you're a package or 3 or 4 does not give you a budget automatically. All the things that Madison was talking about regarding the steps you need to take, attending the treasurer's workshop, submitting an initial budget, attending an FAC meeting, getting a final budget, and then going to budget hearing, those things all need to happen so that you can receive a budget from SGA. So just know that for this part here, you want to make sure that if you want a budget, you would request it. Even if you're package 1 right now, if you want a budget for the spring, you still request and do all those steps. And then you would aim to be package 3 or 4 by the end of this semester so you can receive the budget in the spring. package 4 is the highest package that we offer for the Tiger Stripes program, which is 150 points. So you get the full budget, the 3 supplementals, and then a couple other benefits. Madison mentioned food for recruiting at meetings, up to $250 a year, basically $125 per semester, and $150 for your organization's banner once per year. Will be offered, and then you will also get priority reservations through ECS in the spring for placing your reservations for the upcoming academic year. And for those that have been packaged 4 in the past, also sometimes I get offered like limited opportunities where I will generally give it to package 4 organizations the opportunity to RSVP or register for them first. So an example is the University Marketing Communications is about to do a story on the involvement fair coming up, and a couple of our package 4 groups are going to be highlighted in that story based on their accomplishments in the Tiger Stripes program last semester. I'm not going to read through all of this stuff here, but I am putting it up on the screen. So for the recording, talks about like access for the banner, how to go about doing that, food for meetings. Does anybody have any questions just generally about benefits? Benedict, I see you typing whoop whoop because his organization, Money and Minorities, they are one of the organizations being featured. So yeah, congratulations to that. Sophia, that is not something I am aware of. I would be interested in following up more about that though. So if you can send me an email with the situation, I'll reach out to somebody at HRL about that to ask about the specific processes, okay? Reese is asking, only package 3 up for transportation options. Technically, you could request a supplemental for as one of your, hey, we want to do this transportation type thing for, I'm not sure what you want, but like you could do that technically through a supplemental. All right. So I've told you a little bit about what you can earn as a student organization, going through the benefits and why you may choose to participate. What do you have to do now to earn the points? So I'm going to go through earning points as the next part. Who would we email if we have questions about our club's package? You can email me, Catherine, or Abby. Either of us can help you. Where is the Google Sheet? If you just go to the main page of Involved at TU, it is listed as the top link under campus links on the main page at the bottom right. All right, so let's talk about some ways to earn Tiger points. So this is going to be more of an overview of some things that you will find, but it is not going to be all inclusive. There is going to be literally, I don't know, dozens of opportunities for you to earn points throughout the semester. There will be a lot of opportunities. Your choice would be what types of things does your organization like to do and what makes sense for what type of club you are. Maybe, you would pick things that are in alignment with what your members and what you personally find interesting or would be helpful to your group. So let me go over some of the options. So hosting an event on campus. This is probably the easiest thing to do and earn 10 points for it because almost every group on campus hosts some sort of event that's open to all students. So essentially, to get these 10 points, you would just have to host any event that's open to all students, but it has to be an event. So it can't be a tryout, it can't be one of your normal student group meetings, can't be tabling, and it can't be fundraising for your club. But for instance, maybe you're going to have a guest speaker who's coming to your meeting, and instead you're going to, market that meeting to the campus body saying, hey, come to see X guest speaker at our club's next meeting, right? If you did it like that, that would classify as an event and be eligible for the 10 points. To get the points, and this is the important part, the event needs to be posted to Involved at TU. So good news, we've talked about how every event or activity you're doing now as a club has to be posted anyway. This will essentially, as long as you do one that's open to all students, you will essentially get the points. But if you don't post it to Involved at TU, one, you need to, but two, if you don't post or you don't put it in this format that we know it's an event, then you won't be able to, then you won't get credit. Well, I will also say some people get confused. The events.towson.edu, if you post events there, This system does not talk to events.towson, so it needs to make sure that your event details are on involved at TU. Okay, so that is just one, like, as an aside, because sometimes people post things in the other spot and then we don't know about it. Okay. All right, hosting a collaborative event. So essentially, not just hosting an event, but let's say you work with another student organization on an event together. You can earn 10 points for doing that as well. So the caveat is it's an event, again, that has to be open to all students on campus. Same deal with it can't be a meeting, can't be a tryout, etc. It has to be an organization that has a different purpose than your own, which for the vast majority of clubs on campus, you're very unique, so this won't be a problem. To receive credit, there's a form on Involved at TU that you would complete after the event, and you would get 10 points, 10 for each organization that participated. If you had multiple groups, let's say 4 groups working on an event together, that is also fine, but you would probably have to have the event form, and it says this on the form, submitted more than once. So you might have to submit the form twice so that all groups can be included. Another thing is these 10 points are in addition to basically posting the event on Involved at TU. So if you work with somebody on an event, technically you get 20 points for doing an event as long as you work with somebody else and making sure the event is posted on Involved at TU beforehand. This form says prior December 8th. You're going to see this on almost every slide. That is the final deadline to earn any Tiger points for the fall semester. All right, community service. So we incentivize groups for participating in community service and giving back. So basically the way this will work for your club is let's use the example, if you had 10 members participate in a service project that was 5 hours, 10 people doing 5 hours each, that would count to 5 times 10, which would equal 50 Tiger points. Currently, there's no maximum that can be gained. So this can definitely be useful at the end of the semester where if like you missed some opportunities and you're like, oh man, we need to make up some points, you can kind of look to do some service activities to close any point gaps you might have. Service hours cannot be double counted for more than one organization. So that means if you are part of, let's say, 3 different clubs and you went and did 2 hours of community service, or let's say 3 hours of community service, you can't be like, I did 3 hours and count it 3 times. You still only did 3 hours. You could technically divide it between the 3 clubs if you wanted, like I'm doing 1 hour for this club, 1 hour for this club, 1 hour for this club, that's fine. But you can't like triple count your hours in that case, in that example, okay? What counts as community service? So this is, I think sometimes people have trouble understanding how we define community service and what will count. So the way we are defining service is community service is completed at a 501c3 nonprofit organization or serves a community or skill in need. The service is completed without receiving payment or remuneration for the services completed. So service is an act, like actually you have to be actively serving somebody in some fashion. What is not considered service would be making a donation, donating canned goods. While those, we're going to talk about that in a second, while those are very noble and very great things for your organization to do, technically that is not service. That is what we classify as philanthropy. So for service, you need to actively be serving in some sort of capacity in a community setting, okay? Samir asked a question, is there any documentation required as proof of community service? Great question. Let's go to the next slide. How to log your service hours. So what documentation do you need? So all of your service hours must be documented under your Involved at TU's event page. Here are the steps for how to add the service hours. There is a form that you're going to fill out. And it's essentially very short, very easy. Couple of things that I want to talk about the form. The steps are here. You asked like what documentation for proof. You are going to need to add a verification contact. It's one of the fields. The verification contact should be the person from the service site who can confirm that you did the service. So, you know, if you did it at the Maryland Food Bank, it could be the person who you had communicated with about having your group come there to do the service, right? It could be their email address, it could be their phone number, with their name, whatever is fine. We just need to make sure like it should not be like, I'm going to verify the service as the president of the club, right? So it cannot be a member of your club. Some projects that are happening on campus, a good example for the spring semester is Impact TU, which has been a service opportunity that we've offered the last several years. we would say like you can use the Civic Engagement Office's email address because they track like every group that participates in that event, right? So they would be the ones to put down for an opportunity like that. When you're putting in the hours on the form, they have to be logged for each student that participated and not a lump sum. So let's use we'll use the example here. So like if you had 4 people that participated in a service project for 6 hours, you would go and say, Chris did, 4 hours, and then Abby did 4 hours, Kelly did 4 hours. You can't just say Chris 24 hours, right? It can't be one lump sum. It has to be put by the people that completed the service, okay? And it's very important that you list a complete description and verification so that we can know that it is actually service. The student organization ambassadors, they're the ones who help us sift through and approve the submissions. So for an example of what not to do, if you wrote service in the park, food pantry, okay, great. What park? What type of service did you do in the park? Et cetera. There's not a lot of detail, right? Like it just says service in the park. That's not enough for us to know about like what your group actually did. An example that would be appropriate would be help stocking shelves and sorting food at the Maryland Food Bank, right? That's descriptive. This is what we did. This is where we went, etc. Okay. And then the verification contact we've talked about, just make sure we submit that. Haley asks, would I need to do paperwork/forms for a service project if we go off campus? Yes, but not specifically for service. You would need to submit a travel waiver, and I'm going to talk about that at the end. So if you're traveling off campus, you would want to complete a travel waiver. Luke asks, is it possible to have a community service event and have it count for both? I'm not sure what you mean. Oh, I see what you're saying, like host an event on campus. Yes, theoretically, yes, that could count. I see what you're saying, Lee. Yes. All right, philanthropic donations. So this is the other side of what sometimes people think is service. We consider philanthropy. So what is philanthropy? The desire to promote the welfare of others expressed especially by the generous donation of money or gifts in kinds to good causes. They are donated to a 501c3 nonprofit organization, TU Foundation, public school, religious organization, or a community in need. So essentially, if your organization did want to do a coat drive, or if you did want to do we're going to do a fundraiser to donate to the American Cancer Society, right? Something along those lines, that would count for Tiger Points. You get 1 point for every $20 you donate, but it wouldn't be considered service. So these are different things. For philanthropic donations, there is a philanthropy form on Involved at TU. You can find it under campus links. It's in the same spot we keep talking about. Everything's there. So essentially, if you go to there, you'll find the philanthropy form, and you're going to have to upload some information. So it's going to ask you about like, where did you donate it, and et cetera. Why did you choose this organization? Things of that nature. And then at the very end, it's going to ask you to upload a receipt or a letter from the place you've donated to with an estimated total value of your donation. So, if it's let's use an easy example. Like if you made a check donation to the American Cancer Society, like they'll have the full like check. They can just write like, yeah, we received a check for, $400, and then $400, we would then turn that into Tiger Points for your organization. If it's, hey, we donated, a bunch of canned goods, the service site, Maryland Food Bank could come back and say, hey, we've, tallied up the amount of, cans. They donated whatever, 100 cans, and each can is roughly estimated at $2 each, or whatever the case might be, right? And we would use that value. All right, another opportunity that'll come this fall would be the president survey. So there'll be a survey that's sent out to the primary contact on Involved at TU in the middle of September. It's a very short survey that captures data about your leadership going into the academic year. As long as you complete the survey by October 1st, you get 5 points. Super easy, super straightforward. Ayana asked a question, what if somebody like food or that's what I was saying with like you might have asked this before I answered the previous thing. But like if I use the canned good example, you would just have them give an estimated value of the items that you're donating, and either a letter, an email, something that you can upload from the service site. Okay. And the last thing I want to talk about is the Tiger Trip event calendar. So this hasn't been created for this semester yet, But and I will show a slide about this in the closing for all students, not just the ones in this breakout session. But the digital calendar will have a listing of all the various activities focused on either leadership, well-being, or community development. You can kind of see what's happening on a month-by-month basis. So it'll show you all the events that are happening in September, October, November, etc. So you can find activities that are of interest to your group, and you can kind of make a plan because you'll be able to see like how many points each event is worth. So let's say it's like, hey, we really want to get to package 3 so we can get a budget and we need 100 points. You can kind of add up like, all right, if we go to these events, we're going to get whatever. This is going to be 60 points. Then we still need 40 more through some other means to get to the points that we want. Okay. Does anybody have any general questions about earning Tiger points before I do my quick wrap up? I'll wait a moment. It's okay if we go to an event that isn't related to our club. I'm assuming you're talking for like a service situation, Madison? Or do you mean like a collaborative event, one of these? Either way, the answer is yes. You don't have to go to things that are only related to your club. If there's something your group wants to participate in, it's not Tiger Stripes. We don't necessarily care. Like our goal is to get you connected with the community and around campus. So whatever you're doing, yes, you can go to different things. Kendra asks, not sure I had this correctly. Yes, at the beginning of each semester, everybody starts at 0. So your Tiger Stripes package is only for the semester that is upcoming. So you're earning points right now for the spring. In the spring, you'll be earning points for the following fall. You might have mentioned this already, but how can we obtain the presentation after me? Oh, we're going to send this out to both all the primary contacts on involved at TU, plus I'll talk with Ali about this. We're also going to send it to everybody that signed in here. So even if you're not the primary contact, you'll get access to this information. Andrea, I don't have time to dive into that specific question, but we can talk about like how to like set up how you can set up a service event for your club. There's some options for you. All right, and last question I'm going to accept for moving forward. Leela says, how do we check on how many points we have? So the Google document is kept up to date. So actually, that's going to be on one of the next 2 slides. So let me get to that really quickly. What package is right for my organization? So first off, I want to start by saying it is not my goal, nor do I believe that every organization should strive to be package 4. It is really about what types of rewards does your organization need or benefit. If your group doesn't need or want to participate in earning Tiger points, that is completely okay. The purpose of this presentation is to show you what is available to you as student organizations as potential benefits. So, for your organization, maybe it's like, hey, we have one big event that we do at the end of the semester, but that's all we really need. We could probably just go for package 2 and then have a supplemental and request that for that event. That would be an option for you, right? So depending on what you need, what I will say though is if you wait until the very end of the semester and then decide like, okay, we want to be package 4, there's a week left in the semester, we've earned 0 Tiger points, that's where you're going to run into trouble. So what I recommend doing is having a conversation with your executive board at one of your early executive meetings this semester and talk to them about like, hey, I went to this presentation. These are the things that we can earn as a club. Do we think we should aim for what package and what, or do we not want to participate? Either is okay with our office. Me and Abby don't get offended. It's more about like, what do you guys want for your clubs? So, talk with your officers and make a plan. Someone asked the question, how do I figure out how many points do I have? So tracking. The Google document that we had showed you earlier that is on Involved at TU under the campus link section, that has the progress tracking that will happen throughout the semester. So as you guys are doing things, Abby and myself, we actually go in and like when you attend events or post things, those get uploaded and we put the points on the sheet. I want to say immediately, but usually within a few days of when they happen. So what I recommend strongly is that you periodically go through and check and make sure you have credit for all the things that you went to. So let's say, you're here today at the summit, right? There's an X that Abby puts in the column for everybody that comes to the summit. if you look and you see, oh my gosh, look, everybody has an X, but there's no X in your column for the summit, you should shoot me or Abby an email so that we can look into it. I will mention, me and Abby are human. Sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes we're like one row off when you're working in an Excel sheet, you put the X in the wrong thing. If we screwed something up, we will we will do what we can to make it right for you. So you're going to hear us say, especially as we get toward the end of the semester, double check the document, double check the document. It doesn't take very long, but you guys should be tracking along as we're also tracking to make sure that, you know, it's accurate. What I will say is if something is, you know, if you just submitted an event on Involved It to you and you send us an email an hour later, like, hey, I didn't get points on the Google Doc yet. You know, me and Abby also work on like normal people. Like it's not instantaneous, like we actually have to check it. So you usually give it at least a couple days, maybe a week. But if something that you submitted for a while isn't showing up, we will not be we can check for you. Okay. Our purpose of this is making sure you guys get credit for the work you're doing. This screen has all of the major deadlines for the fall 2025. We keep it very, very simple for the Tiger Stripes program. There's only 2 days you really need to remember. October 1st, that is the initial deadline for the mandatory stuff that is listed there. And then everything else essentially is December 8th. Okay. So, you know, as we get close to those deadlines, you will get an annoying amount of reminders from me and Abby to make sure you don't miss things. But essentially, if you want to, as you're making your plans, plan for these couple days as like when you need to make sure you have stuff in. I will mention that for the initial deadline stuff, like there's no reason to wait on the Involved It registration or the advisor form. These two things, like they take not much time to do, but the advisor form in particular, that's one thing that's completely outside of your control. Like you might email your advisor and then they don't check their email for the first few weeks because they're busy with their classes. They forget to get back to you. So instead of like waiting till like the week before and then you find out like, oh my gosh, they've left the country for this week for whatever reason, and you're trying to track them down to get the form done, just send it to them early so that you can get that completed. Madison asks, if our advisor fill out the form in the spring, do they have to do it again? Yes, they do. Every year, starting in the fall, they have to submit the form. We reset it beginning of August every year. So even if they are a new advisor or just took over in the spring, they do need to submit it again. Thank you for asking. That's a great question. All right. Lastly, the December 8th deadline and beyond. So after December 8th, myself, Abby, along with the director and assistant director of student organizations, we go through each organization on the Google Doc and we will assign Tiger Stripes packages for the upcoming spring semester based on what has been completed. There is no mystery. There is no magic. Actually, you can look on the Google Doc at any time, and with smart Excel work, you can just add up how many points you have. So all we do is literally sum up the columns and then assign your package basically either at 0, 50, 100, or 150 thresholds. And then we will send out an official email to groups when things have been updated on your Involved It TU pages. Okay. Then beginning in spring 2026, your organization's then eligible for those benefits immediately, including the budget stuff that we talked about. So if you requested a budget, you get to package 3. Your budget would then go into effect starting in the spring. If you think we screwed up because we are human or some extenuating circumstance prevented that was beyond your personal control, that something happened, you know, I don't know. I won't go into wild things, but if something happened and you believe that we made a mistake, the SGA Judicial Board does hear appeals on Tiger Stripes. But if you contact me and Abby before the deadline, like, hey, I'm having a trouble submitting this form, something's not right, you won't have to do an appeal. Me and Abby will work with you. But if it's after the deadline, anything you tell us like afterwards, like, oh, I just noticed this thing back in October was missing, you're going to then have to appeal it to SGA. Beforehand, me and Abby will address it. If you need help, you're encouraged to reach out to me or Abby. We can help you with if you don't know how to submit something. A lot of this can be found on the Google Doc. So if you go across that top column, there is very explicit instructions. But we also do schedule one-on-one appointments with clubs. So if you're like, hey, we really want to be package 3, we've only ever been package 1 before, we're not sure how to go about getting there, like we can help you make a plan. But if you wait till the very end of the semester, it's a lot harder to start. All right, and with that, We are right at 4 o'clock. I hope I answered most of the questions as we kind of went through the presentation. So I will say, if you do have final questions about this, after we do the closing wrap up, I'm happy to stick around and answer them for you. You can also email me or Abby any questions that weren't answered today regarding the Tiger Stripes program, and we can also help you out with that, okay? Thank you guys very much, and we're gonna get ready for the closing. I see we're at 2:31 in terms of attendance. So my guess is we might have maybe 1 or 2 groups that might still need to be jumping in here. Let me really quickly, are people here from the ECS section? If you can say ECS in the chat, if you're here from the Event and Conference Services presentation. Perfect. Thank you, ECS folks. If you are here from the belonging session that ADS and OIIE did, can you type belonging? Maybe pick a shorter word. Okay, we'll see a lot for ECS. Thank you, guys. Okay, I don't see them yet. If you're here from the Career Center session, type Career Center. Or Career, perfect. Oh my God, Miles was on it. I think he... All right, so Career Center is here. All right, perfect. All right, let's give it another moment or two, and then we'll... hopefully our final folks will go. How did your guys, for those that weren't in the Tiger Stripe session, how did your sessions go? Went great, very informative. I guess also tell me if you're typing what your thoughts on it, which session you went to. Okay, learn new stuff about grants, great. I'm glad that makes me happy to hear. ECS. It's pretty straightforward. All right, great. Okay, inclusion, perfect. So I'm guessing inclusion just let out. All right, great. Thank you guys for sharing your feedback. I'm actually going to ask you in a little bit to provide a little bit additional feedback to us as we're getting ready to wrap up. All right, I'm going to share and we're going to move into the closing because I want to try to keep us on time. So the last part here, I'm going to talk about the student organization top 10. Since we had a lot of questions in the beginning, we didn't have a chance to talk about it. But these are key things that you need to know as a student organization leader. If you're in the Tiger Stripe session, some of these slides will look familiar because we had talked about them. So these are things that hopefully, if you're number 2, like you've been a student org leader in the past, this will be a refresher. But if you're new to your role, these will hopefully help you. There is a lot of text on these slides. So hopefully, even if you don't get everything out of this, after you get the slides and you have a chance to like go back and look through it, you'll be able to answer stuff. All right. The first is room reservations. So in the Tiger Stripe session, we had talked about this, but if your club is looking to meet on campus, one of the benefits you have and one of the key things is the ability to request space from Event and Conference Services to host events and meetings. The biggest thing I want you all to know about this is that if you want to request space, this is done through the 25 Live system, online portal that you would put in the requests, but you cannot put the requests in until you have become an authorized requester for your organization. So you can have 2 representatives that can be authorized requesters. The steps to become an authorized requester is you need to take a Blackboard training course, and all the steps for that are listed on the right-hand side of the screen, okay? This can also be found on the ECS website, but if you're looking to put in reservations, do the training. If you are stuck on like how to like, hey, I'm having trouble submitting my reservations, or I'm having an issue with the form, reservations@towson.edu is the way to get in touch with Event and Conference Services reservations. You can also email me or Abby. We'll redirect you there, but they're the ones who manage all the reservations for campus. The second thing, we had talked about this in the main session about contracts. Told you it was coming from the future, but the big thing to note is a minimum of 10 days prior for submitting a purchase request to initiate the contract process. The nice thing about this contract process is you as the student do not need to really navigate the contract process anymore. It can all be done by the SGA staff. But you need to make sure you get the information in on the form minimum, I would honestly encourage you to do it a lot earlier if you can, so that you can have your contract approved by SGA. Posting flyers on campus, we had just talked about this in the other session. The key thing to note is if you're trying to post flyers, you need to first get them stamped in the SGA office. That's the first step for posting anywhere on campus. Academic buildings, you need to make sure you're following that building's basically policies. There's a resource that the student org ambassadors have put together for this. The link for that is here. It is also found on the student org resource page. You can look in the document section to find this. Otherwise, you just ask at the dean's office, like, hey, what do I need to do to post in your building? Residence halls, take 20 copies to the HRL main office. And for the union, digital screens. If you'd like to post in there's no flyers you can put up in the union, but you can put up ads on the digital screens. Graphic and design services can design you the ads free of charge for you as a student organization, and it can run for up to 2 weeks, but you need to submit at least 14 days prior to when you want the ads to go up on the screen, okay? So there is a form for this. You can find it on Campus Links on Involved It to You. The direct link can also be on the Graphic Design Services website here, okay? This is just an examples of 2 of the buildings that groups post in the most. I'm just putting this here so you have it. Okay, food waivers. So anytime your organization is looking to do an event that has food, you have to go through Tiger Hospitality Catering. They have what is called first right of refusal in terms of providing food to campus. There is a if you are not going through Tiger Hospitality Catering and you're having more than $100 worth of food at your event or meeting, you need what is called a food waiver. Essentially, it's just a form that you have to fill out to request permission to utilize an external vendor. So anytime you're doing something, let's say you're trying to get $200 worth of Ritas that you're going to hand out to students, right? Hot Tiger Hospitality, they don't make Rita's Ice. So that is one that you would typically get approved very easily by them. The key things to note about submitting the form, you'd have to submit it at least 10 days before the event. And usually it's about 48 business hours, so like 2 days before they'll get back to you. But just because you submit the form does not guarantee approval. The link to the food waiver form can be found on Involved It to You. It's pretty straightforward once you're submitting it, though. It'll ask you all the questions. You do need to submit it even if you are getting the Ritas in that instance donated. If the value of the Ritas is over $100, they still need to approve it, even if it's technically quote unquote free. This was a question that came up in the Tiger Stripe session about traveling off campus. So anytime you're traveling off campus as a part of a sponsored activity for your group, you need to have all the participants complete a travel liability waiver. This form, once again, can be found on Involved It to You under the Campus Link section, but you need to complete you need to collect all the waivers from your members and turn them into the SJ Office 263 before going on the trip. Question sponsored by Towson. But by sponsored activity, I mean sponsored by your organization. So let's use a couple of examples. Like, hey, our student organization, we're the hiking club, which is a club. We're the hiking club, and we're going to go on a hike off campus. It is a sponsored activity by the hiking club. We would need everybody that's going on that trip to submit a waiver to go on that trip. The waivers are important because they protect you. Like, let's say you get into an accident on the way to the trip, etc. It captures emergency contact information, health insurance, and also makes sure that the students that are going know that, you know, there is some level of risk associated with going to an off-campus location. Let's use the same example of hiking. If you said to your best friend who's also in the hiking club, like, hey, let's go on a hike this weekend, you know, down the road, right? That you do not need to submit a waiver for, even if you're both in the hiking club, because it's just you guys going on an informal trip, right? But if the hiking club's like, hey, we're gathering to go as an organization, you would need to make sure that every member completes a travel waiver before going. Also, in that example, you would also need to put the event on Involved It to You, as we had mentioned in the main session, since this is now a sponsored activity by your club. Sophia, yes, it would include, you would need a travel waiver for things like ice rinks. Sophia, if you're with the ice hockey group, though, your processes might be a little bit different as a sport club, okay? So let's talk about that separately if you're with ice hockey specifically. Even if you drive separately, yes. If it is a club-sponsored activity, anytime, you would still want them to complete the travel waiver. Because let's use the hiking example. You go to the hike, somebody gets stung by a bee, they're allergic to bees, they're going to the hospital, they're in shock. You would want all of that information. I recommend you keep a copy with you and you take it with you on the trip in the event something happens, but we should have the original in the office that we can keep on record for your organization. Should somebody say, hey, I went on this unsafe trip and I was not, nobody told me this could be dangerous, the travel liability waiver helps protect you in that case. All right, the hazing policy, you guys, as you did your re-registration, this was one of the things that you would have clicked to agree. The full policy is here. I'm not going to read through it, but the short version of the hazing policy is that hazing is illegal in the state of Maryland. The full definition is listed here on the screen that Towson utilizes. But essentially, if your organization is engaging in any sort of hazing behaviors, it's not just like your organization could get in trouble on campus, you could be prosecuted like legally as well. So some examples of hazing could include mandating consumption of alcohol or foods, running errands for members, or any sort of publicly humiliating stuff. So this hasn't been our groups are generally good about this, but just make sure your practices as an organization are not putting people in situations that are going to cause them either physical or mental stress. Number 7 is student organization reporting, and there's 2 specific forms I want to make sure you're all aware of. The first is hate bias reporting. So if you believe you as if in your organization space or just in general on TU's campus have witnessed either a hate crime or a bias incident, we want to encourage you, especially as student leaders, with your positions of authority, to report these honestly as quickly as possible so that they can be addressed. Let's talk about hate crimes, bias incidents first. There's 2 different main channels you can use to report. The first is if there's an ongoing situation where it's like, hey, I am witnessing a crime that is happening in real time. I need TUPD to get here to stop the situation. Just go straight to the Taos University Police Department. The emergency number is there. If you're leaning toward hey, there's somebody that needs immediate support, the perpetrator might have fled the scene, but there's somebody that is in need of help, you can maybe use the non-emergency number, but depending on the situation, but that is something you don't want to wait on. So specifically, calling TUPD immediately should be your first course action. The second would be reporting to OIIE. So this might be a situation that's happening. Maybe it happened in your organization space. Maybe it happened, last week at a meeting, and then a member came and talked to you about it after the fact, and you weren't even aware of it. So Dr. Patricia Bradley, who was on the call at the welcome, this is her whole division's charge. They have multiple options for how you can do it. You can submit through email. But I would recommend the online hate bias form. I put the link here. You can call them, but essentially OIIE will determine the level of if a policy was violated, and then what the steps in which office might approach addressing the violation or complaint. And that could be anything from the counseling center to the student accountability restorative practices office to it could be any department that might get involved, but they'll route to make sure that the situation is addressed. All right, and the second is the SOS form. And this is essentially a form for the Student Outreach and Support Office, where if you witness a student that is going through a hard time, having a crisis, or somebody that you're concerned about that you think needs support. I gave a couple examples here. So it's there's a student that's coming to your meetings that doesn't seem like themselves. They just randomly dropped off the face of the earth and it's not like them. They're being non-communicative. Or if somebody comes to you and says hey, I've had this really traumatic thing that's happened in my life. I'm dealing with a death in the family, and I'm not sure how I can even manage to get to classes and get out of bed. These would be the types of things that we are encouraging you to submit through this form. And the Student Outreach Support Office, they're really great people who will check in with the student to make sure that they're getting the support that they need. You can also self-report. So if you have something go on in your life, I've helped some students fill out this form over the past year where it's they had a death in the family, their professor wasn't being the most understanding of their situation, and they just didn't know where to turn. This is a situation where the Student Outreach Support Office can help. So the only thing I want to note is if it's an emergency situation, you have like somebody gave you like an imminent threat of suicide or something of that nature, something like that, you can direct immediately to TUPD, where it's like, okay, we need to find this student and make sure they're not going to hurt themselves. But if it's something you're like, hey, I'm worried about this individual, you should use this form. Student org finances, I'm not even going to talk about this in large because there is the new finance training. The biggest thing that I want to hit home on this slide is just that student organizations are not permitted to collect or store funds through things such as Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. I feel like we've talked about this a lot during the summits, just making sure you recognize that we do either need to collect money via cash or check, or have individuals go directly to the auxiliary service office to make deposits into your organization account. And then generally, if you do have finance questions or need help managing your organization's finances, email the SJ Finance email, which I have on this slide. All right, last two things really quickly. Minimum requirements to remain an active club are these three things. So attendance at the summit, you guys are doing that right now. Great job. Re-registering your club on Involved at TU. This is something that has been emailed out several times over the summer. It's an online form that we need to get from you to make sure we have your updated contact information as a club. Additionally, if your club is not on the logo wall, when you re-register your club, if you'd like to be added to the logo wall, this is an opportunity to have your club's information added. And then your advisor recommitment form, it has to be a full-time faculty or staff member at TU. This form is currently active and available on Involved at TU under campus links, but me/Abby will send you guys this link via email so you have it, so you can forward it directly to your advisor. They have to fill this out. You cannot fill this out on behalf of your advisor, okay? And the last thing is Involved at TU. So this is your resource as a student organization officer and student leaders. We have put as much information as possible, but you've heard us reference today the Tiger Stripes Google document. You can find that there. The campus link section has almost all the important forms and documents you will need as a student organization. There's a student org resources page that has additional resources such as the posting policy, location stuff that I mentioned earlier, and then contact information for our student orgs. Like, this is how we get in touch with you. So we need, this is where you can also get in touch with one another. And the last thing about Involved at TU is whoever is the primary contact on Involved at TU, that is the person that you can expect to get all the important emails from me and Abby throughout the semester. So especially if you're the president of your club, please make sure you're in the primary contact field, so you're the one who's getting contacted as the semester goes along. Okay. This is just a general recap of the big changes for this semester. We talked about needing a president and treasurer as position, president and treasurer positions, and listing them on Involved at TU. So I encourage you to go to your page once this is done, or in the next few weeks, or actually the next few weeks, before they go to the financial training, to make sure that the president and treasurer are listed on your roster. The separate required financial training, I'm going to talk about that in a second. Maintaining an accurate roster on Involved at TU, you were shown how to do that today. And a reminder, you need at least 5 students, but this should accurately reflect all of the membership of your student organization. Taking attendance for all of your gatherings on Involved at TU, we went through that. The contracting process, essentially, just make sure you submit the purchase request form within 10 days, or at least 10 days before your event. No ticketing or fundraising with SGA funds. You either need to use your own money, or you can't charge for the events. And then overstaying ECS room reservations, just making sure that you're out of the space by the time your reservation ends. And events with alcohol policy, it's changed. If you're using alcohol, or if you're going to have an event with alcohol, make sure you read the policy. The financial training, I just want to recap. You had the treasurer's workshop today, which talked about the budgeting processes. That is not the same as the financial training. The president and the treasurer both need to go to one of these dates. So these are them once again. There is one literally tomorrow. If that's too soon, there's plenty that happen starting in the first week of school. So please make sure you mark one of these down and plan to attend. The Tigers of Digital calendar has not been added to Involved at TU yet. We are working on it. This is an example from one from last year. This will be available. That kind of outlines, I mentioned this in my session, where it talks about the month, and you can see all the various opportunities along with the points associated in one easy to read format. So this will be coming out, and it'll be emailed out when it's uploaded to the Involved at TU page. I left the spring 2025 one there for right now. So if you want to look at like what it's going to look like, you can find it. The important Tiger Stripes date for this semester, in case you didn't come to my session, October 1st is the initial deadline where these requirements must be met. And the final deadline for all Tiger points is December 8th. And I'm just putting this up here. This is more of a recap of like upcoming important student org dates. I'm not going to go through them all. The one thing I am going to say though is the involvement fair. We are almost out of space, really almost out of space. So if your group hasn't signed up yet and you want to get a table, please get your reservation. The form can be found on the main page of Involved It to You or under the form section. And we are going to have University Open House. We're really excited about this on October 14th. So more details to come. There's likely going to also be an additional networking workshop that happens this evening, which will be worth even more points. But until we finalize the details, I didn't put it on this slide. Okay. Lastly, if you need any help beyond today, me and Abby are here to assist you guys. So please, I think most of you have our emails, but please don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions. Please note that in the next roughly week and a half until we get through the involvement fair, me and Abby are going to be extremely bombarded with a lot of questions. So we may be a little bit slower than our normal response time. We're doing our best. We also do a lot with Welcome to You for new students. But we'll do our best to get back to you as quickly as possible. If you have a lot of questions, you need a lot of help after today, or like Chris, you completely overwhelmed me with all these things, and we're nervous about the changes, reach out to me or Abby, and we can talk about setting up separate time for an individual meeting, because I don't want anybody leaving today feeling concerned or anxious, okay? So our hope is that after today, you feel good about going into the semester. All right, and then this is the very, very last thing. And it is important, this is the checkout. So Abby, can you put the link in the chat? You can scan the QR code, but I'm gonna recommend instead click the link Abby put in the chat. It goes to the same place, but there's a good amount of questions. It does have like a short quiz on some of the stuff related to some of the changes to see if you guys fully understand. If you answer a lot wrong, you might expect an email from me or Abby following up with you to make sure that you got the key points of the changes for this semester. But please do the assessment. And then also part of the assessment is giving us feedback about how you felt today went. So if you have suggestions or thoughts about this training, I encourage you to give us your honest opinion so that we can do the best we can for you guys, okay? The link doesn't work. Are you kidding me? Hold on. Is it working for?
It worked for me. I opened it. So since everyone's clicking on it, just give it a second, and refresh a couple times, but it should work.
Okay. Yeah, please give it a little bit. Sorry, it might be we just Involved you seem to have trouble today. Of all the days that this would happen, of course it's on the day of the summit. Mia, my guess is that if it's saying that for you, that you should be able to continue the submission. It might have been like the error happened, and then when you reloaded it, it now thinks you started it already. There should be something you can click on to like restart the questions. Let me know if it's still not working for you. Kayla, if you want to do something like that, we can talk about it. But I would suggest to you, you don't need to click end all. It would take you maybe about 5 minutes to do this, but you can click through the pages and just click the check boxes next to all the people you want to delete. Make sure you leave your officers or the people that you know are members, and then just you select, let's say 20 at a time, and then click end membership, and then you can basically kind of reset your roster that way. But I wouldn't remove your officers and stuff unless I just wouldn't do that unless you absolutely needed to. Take like 20 minutes and you can go through and like make sure that you have the accurate individuals. Morgan, you do not. You can just put both organizations' names. Yeah, thank you. Abby answered it. Sorry. I have a question with the wording about one of the questions. Harold, what's your question? You can email it. If it's personal, you can email it direct or private message me.
Oh, it's just that It says amount of students required on an organization roster. Does that include officers?
So it is the minimum requirements to to be an active student organization. So officers would be technically included. So
Okay,
not separate. Does that make sense?
gotcha. Thank you.
No. Everybody's asking if you have to do it twice. You only need to submit it one time, even if you're here on behalf of more than one group. Just put both organizations' names under the org names. Just do like a slash or something like that. Yes, to everybody who asked. If you sorry, my chat's like jumping too. Try it if you can. Somebody confirm this for me. If you got an error when you click submit, can you try refreshing the page and telling me what it says? I'm going to stop sharing for a second. Jeez. Okay, hold on. Okay, I see 36 people have submitted. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you guys something on my screen. Give me a second here. We're going to teach you something. Bonus content. Here we go. All right. So if you're on Involved It to You and you're getting the, hey, you have a submission pending. If you click your little bubble up here in the top right and go down to My Submissions, you should see under Forms, you'll see one that says Student Organization Summit Assessment, something like that. If you click this little I button next to it, it'll bring you to a page that looks like this, Review Submission. You should be able to go back. Any fields you filled in should already be filled in. And then you should be able to click next and then hit submit. And I say it should work. Hopefully you don't get an error, but you shouldn't have lost the data. Okay, Marion. All right, thank you, everybody. Justin, I am so sorry. Okay.
Were you able to see lines?
Yes, I should be able to. I'm not gonna here, let me stop sharing. I'm not gonna pull up your guys' individual answers on screen, so in case anybody's gonna be embarrassed by that, but I can look and check to see if you submitted it. So give me one moment here. Even I'm having issues with, I was getting random errors. This is just, I'm up to 87 already. So this is looking like you guys are getting through. I apologize for the tech stuff. Sometimes it's beyond your control. I will thank whatever deity you want to thank that at least the Zoom worked out okay. All right, who asked if theirs was submitted? Sorry.
It was Miriam.
All right, Miriam, let's look for you. Just as a test. I see him. You're in. 424. Okay. Once you are done filling out the assessment form and you don't have the error, you are done for the day. I apologize that we went a little bit over. You guys had a lot of questions. I know it was a lot of new information. I want to say, yes, thank you for everybody saying the thank yous. I want to thank you guys for your attention. I know this was a lot for today, and it is a lot of stuff. Please do us the favor we ask and make sure you share this information with your executive boards and you make your plans for the upcoming semester. Have a great rest of your last little bit of summer, if you want to call it that. We're looking forward to seeing you guys next weekend at the Involvement Fair. Have a great rest of your day. I'm going to hang out here. If you guys do have additional questions, please let me know. Somebody asked the question about should we try and submit later if it's still an error. I have the form closing at 6 o'clock tonight. What I will do is I'm going to extend that until tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Okay. So if you can submit it by tomorrow at 5, that should be fine. You care? I'll look for you in a second too. Um, okay, change this. Sorry, I just want to make sure. So 5 o'clock tomorrow, if you're having issues. If you're still having issues, let's say tomorrow and you can't get it to submit, please email me and Abby directly with your organization name so that we can figure out what's going on. But thank you for dealing with the challenges. All right, somebody asked, sorry, Allison, I'll answer you in just one moment. Who was asking me initially before saying they, oh, you care. Okay, 1 second.
I have a question before we go.
Okay, 1 moment, please, and then I'll take your question. Okay. Care, I did not receive yours. If you can please try resubmitting one more time, I apologize. Okay, Allison, why don't you go first, and then I'm not sure who said they had a question. You're next. If you'd like to unmute Allison, you can ask over voice if you prefer. If you can type it, or type it, either way. Chica, if you wanna try it again tomorrow, save the link and just try logging in and doing it in the morning, but send Abby an email just as like a backup, in case it doesn't go through. You can email me as well. I'll talk with her on Thursday about how we're gonna deal with this, but thank you. It might just be we tried to send too many people all at one time, unfortunately, and the site today is just not doing well with a lot of people being on it, which is not typical, but also just very unfortunate. Okay, sorry, whoever else had a question, I didn't see Allison bring her question. Who else if you had a question, feel free to shout it out.
Chris, this is Allison.
Yes.
So my student org, despite existing for multiple years, does not have a page on Involved at TU. How should I go about getting that done?
What group?
It's the graduate audiology chapter of the National Student Speech Language Hearing Association.
Oh, you guys definitely have a page.
The audiology, there's
Oh,
3.
audiology. I see. Sorry, I thought I heard. I'm so stuck in speech path. Okay, can you email me separately and we can sort out what's happening? Most likely it's somebody who was previously in your organization didn't upkeep the Involved at TU re-registration, and they probably got emailed that they're getting marked inactive, and then they just never did anything with it. So
all right,
I can
good.
get you reset. It won't be a problem.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
Excuse me.
Yeah, Fat, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Well, I just want I just submitted my quiz and it said it successfully went through. So, you guys, remind me, you guys said that you would email me if there was something wrong with, like, if I got anything wrong or anything like that, right?
If you got one thing wrong, don't worry. It's like if you made a lot of mistakes and you clearly didn't pay attention while you were here, we might call you in for a meeting to chat about it. But otherwise,
okay. Well, the thing is, like, I was late to the meeting, so like, it started at like 1 and I didn't come in until 2 because I had to go to work. So
just email me and Abby and we'll follow up with you, okay?
Okay. So after this, there's nothing else?
Nope, you're done. Thank you for being here today. I
Perfect.
appreciate you coming straight from work.
All right. Well, I'll see you guys later.
Yep, see ya.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Chris, can you hear me?
Yes.
How's it going? My name is Reese Earl. I'm with the hiking club. I wanted to know, I'm assuming I would just email you, but how we would go about potentially getting a van. Past couple years, we've been carpooling with individuals on the hiking club, but I kind of want to move it towards getting a van and doing it that way. Wasn't sure
Yeah.
how to do it.
You can send me an email, but the short version of it is you can get a van through Fleet Services and request it. But you're going to need to do essentially a purchase request to pay for it. So starting with the purchase request form also wouldn't be a bad idea, but I can give you more information about that.
Okay. I'll definitely email you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hey, I'm Mohammed there. I'm from the PSA Club. I just wanted to know that I just submitted my form online. So do we need to check out somewhere as well?
Nope, I got it, Mohammed. I see it. You're good. That form is your checkout.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Ayana Gordon. I'm president of PsyChi, and I'm also on the board for NCW. I didn't add NCW on the check-in, and I wanted to see how I could add that, or do I email you guys to add that? But I'm not like the president, or like I don't. I'm part of like the financial club
Yeah,
portion of
I think
NCW,
so.
but not holding a chair in that. So if I sign in for them too, do I have to also add them to the checkout assessment too?
Are you an officer of the club, Ayana? Just
No, I just like I kind of help out with the officer. Does that count?
um email us. The reality is we want to make sure that the information is going back to the officers of the club, especially because there's so many big things changing. So the short version of it is I want to make sure that the information you've gotten today like is going to make its way to the officer group, but we can chat about that. Okay.
Okay, well, but just and also just clarification. I did sign in for psychiatrists. I'm president of that. But can I still add NCW on there because I forgot to add that. I didn't put that in the check-in, but it's
You
already
can,
closed.
yeah, I know the check-in. Yeah, you can put it on the checkout and then we can chat about, like I said, the biggest thing for us is making sure that the officers of the groups actually have the information. So I want to make sure what that would look like for them getting it. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
I'm so sorry. I just did the form and I submitted it and it said that there was an error.
Can you try resubmitting it? I didn't see yours in there.
Yeah, I keep refreshing it. It keeps saying an error.
Here's what I would recommend. Can you try going back to the main page of Involved It to you?
Oh wait, I think it went through. Could you check?
I don't see it. Wait, there it goes. My stuff's being slow. You're good, Jenny. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
Hello.
Hi.
I do have one question. Um, so I know you said earlier about like the Venmo and PayPal, how we're not allowed to use it as a club, but if we brought somebody unrelated to the club, could they like sit near our booth and like act as like kind of like an ATM where they can collect Cash App and Venmo and then provide cash to students that are
No,
looking to
Luke.
participate in the
No,
club?
Luke.
Okay.
No is the answer. I know,
Thank you.
listen, I want to say, I know this is not convenient. We hate that we do not have a solution to tell you. Just trust
Okay.
that. We do not like that this is the answer that we have to give you, but it is a state policy that we are being required to uphold. We are going to continue to look for solutions, but right now we don't have one. And so,
Okay.
literally, any angle you're thinking of, I appreciate that you're trying to come up with a creative solution, but the answer is no.
Okay. Got it.
Sure.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
appreciate your ingenuity though. That was I get where you're going and it's admirable.
All right. Are there any ATMs on campus?
Yeah, there's one in the Union, on the first floor down by the Den and the PNC Bank, like in that entrance, into the
Okay,
Union. Mm-hmm.
got it. Thank you.
Sure.
Murat, I see yours says, mine says pending. Yes, that's because we haven't approved it, but you should be good. I'll check to make sure it went through. Yes, yours is fine. You're good. I was filling out the form, I pressed next, it went to error, and I lost all my answers. Yeah, if you're having trouble with the form, send me an email, Kathleen. I'll send you the link tomorrow as a reminder, and you can try resubmitting it before 5. That's fine. I believe anybody that's still here has given their best attempt at getting the form to commit to go through.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, for me, also I pressed next and then it went to an error screen. But I like had answers down there. I think it disappeared. Not sure.
Can you go back into were you here when I was talking about how to go into my submissions?
Um, is it to involve that to you?
Yeah, at the top right of the page, if you can go click on the bubble, there's a section that says my submissions. You should see under that page the form that says like summit assessment. Click the I, and that should theoretically let you get back to your form. I can't promise if it will have saved your info though, because it seems like there's a number of problems.
Yeah, I didn't save.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Try filling it out one more time. If it doesn't work, email me and Abby, and then, or you can try to resubmit it tomorrow before 5 o'clock if it doesn't work the second time. Sending this again. I'm submitting as a
Okay.
general member, Oliver Tar Club and Tiger Stripes chair for ISA. Yes, you can do that. Actually, I have a question for you though. Toluleke, are you still here? I apologize if I mispronounced your name. Who is the new president for the All Level Guitar Club? I'm trying to remember their name. They had submitted a form over the summer. But I can't recall it immediately off the top of my head. The reason I'm asking is your advisor has reached out to me with some questions, and I tried putting them in touch with the student. They were originally having trouble getting in touch with them. Yes, Tejan Ba. Yes, that's the person. Okay. All right, yeah, I just want to make sure that he's meeting with the advisor. Okay. All right. Yes, if you could please make sure that he gets this information then, that would be like extremely helpful. But as long as he's gotten in contact with your guys' advisor, that's all I just wanted to make sure of. Okay, that's very helpful. All right, we'll see you in a little bit. Can't believe it. Next week, school starts. All right, any other final questions? All right, going once, going twice. All right, I want to thank you all for being here today. If you guys do have any other final questions, please don't hesitate to reach out via email. We're looking forward to welcoming you back literally next week to campus. So we'll see you soon. And I guess we'll see some of you guys at the Student Work Fest, depending if you signed up. See ya. Okay, we did it. Jeez.
Oh my gosh.
My God, dude, what a day to not have involved a T working properly.
Right. That was not something that was even on our radar of like, as we're doing this that it wouldn't be functioning.
I was so frustrated.
It was. It was.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll sort it out. Abby, sorry to like just for you. Like we'll just have to sort this out like over the next couple days. I know it's going to be a little bit of a mess, but it's it's okay. It'll be, dude. I can't believe, I literally can't believe this actually all happened.
That's crazy. There was also way more questions in the chat this time, I feel like, than
Oh my
last year.
gosh, I got so many, like at the beginning when when you asked me to introduce myself, I had just gotten like 20 people send me individual messages.
Yes.
So I hope I didn't miss any, but yeah, that was wild.
I've had like, I don't even know how many full conversations of like back and forth, back and forth. There was a whole conversation with Luke in the chat, and then he direct messaged me, and then he tried to answer asking question like, Luke, no.
Oh
He
my
is
God.
trying every angle possible to
I'm
be able
glad
to
you
say
spoke up
them
then.
no.
I didn't know that context.
Well, that's
I was
why I
gonna-
did. Honestly, that's why I did, Chris, because I was like, stop it. The answer is no. I have said no 5 times now for every angle that you're coming at this. It's just a no.
Dude, I can't even so even trying to show them, like tell them how to get around it, like I'm getting the error, like just trying to access the form section of the site. Like I can't even tell you currently like how many submissions we got. It was like 150 or something.
Yeah.
But I also think so, I mean, granted, I think we did a good job in terms of like telling them that there was going to be a lot of new important information like ahead of time, because we had at one point it was very close to 300 students on the call, or 300 people, I should say, which is very, very high for the summit. Like, you know what I mean? So we had really good
but that's
attendance.
good.
Yeah. So it's just
Hopefully they listen. I mean, the number of times that we said no Venmo or Cash App, and then Luke was like, what about Zelle? No, none of them. But the number of times that it was in the
my
chat,
God.
hopefully like the message got across to everybody too, of like, you cannot use it for anything, for any purpose. That was cracking me up.
Yeah.
I sent you an email, Chris, because there's a very weird situation going on with Common Sense Politics page. So once you have a moment to breathe, maybe don't look at it today, because maybe part of the issue is the site, but he reached out to me privately and asked, they changed the title for treasurer. Somehow they were successful at changing the title on the locked treasurer position on their page last semester. And now it can't change back, and I can't even get it to change back. But it's locked into the treasurer template. So we're gonna have to
that
play
might be
around with it, see what you can do.
Yeah, that might have to be a contact support. If it's like you literally can't do it, then and I'll ask them like, how did this even happen? Because
I mean, I did successfully at one point involved works where I was all the way into like their organization type and the position types assigned to that work type. Like I was trying to figure out, is their work type wrong? Is like what's happening here that it was locking it out? But I have no idea what they did.
Yeah, I'd shut my email off intentionally during the summit. So I'm telling you, since 12:04, I've gotten, I don't know exact. This has got to be almost 30 emails. But granted,
well, you'll see that in there. But
yeah, I was gonna say, well, honestly, not that that's great, but when you told me like there's this issue on the page, like, oh my God, did they put something like politically charged? It's like, to be fair, like their whole club is supposed to be like the non-crazy politically charged club. So like, dude, like I'm hoping
nothing like that. But it's weird. I don't know why it's happening the way that it's happening, because it shouldn't be. Looking at it, like it shouldn't be doing what it's doing. So
yeah, before tonight's over, like when we wrap up here, I am gonna submit a support ticket to involve just in general of like, hey, we had our virtual training where we were literally going to show them our site, like not to make them feel bad, but it's like we're having massive issues of like errors that just kept popping up repeatedly for everybody. So and ask like what the situation is, because
because it seemed like for me, because I was also like, while the treasurer's workshop was going on, I was doing other stuff and I was trying to work on Prio stuff, and I couldn't get past 2 clicks in and I would get an error. It was just locking me out of like everything. So I think
I was having trouble this morning too.
Were you? Yeah.
with re-registrations. I had to like, or even the involvement fair registrations. Like I tried to keep track of non-repeaters, whatever. But
Yeah.
then sometimes I would approve, but then the page would be an error, and then it ended up not approving, but I thought it was approved. So that's gonna be a little bit of a mess just for me figuring out if something's repeated. But yeah,
I'm
I
so
thought it would just
sorry.
go away.
Welcome back, Abby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is my last summit, but
I wasn't it. Thank goodness though, Abby, you're returning to this position. So like
Oh
this
my
is gonna
God.
be messy, but at least you know how to handle it. Like we're not trying to
yeah.
teach you your job or involve it to you.
Yeah.
If this had happened to a brand new GA, I would feel so bad.
Yeah.
Well,
Because this is gonna get messy.
to be
Yeah.
fair, I was gonna say like at least Abby, like everything Kelly just said. But if you were a new GA, you would not have been asked to answer any questions or anything.
Well, no,
So this would
no,
just been
that's
like
true.
you're just here to literally like if they're having trouble, have them take down their information and we'll email them later.
It's
Right.
also like
Just
I
keep putting the
could
link in there.
I could also just not believe how impatient everybody was. I'm like, guys, it just refreshed. Like we're all on there. It's fine.
I love
don't know.
that. Can you see mine now?
Like
no, because the site's not working for us either. Just
and there's how many of them?
I will say we
Oh.
got 170 forms, which is actually not that bad.
okay, that's pretty good. Yeah,
So
that's not
yeah,
bad.
originally when it was at like 36, I was like, oh, like
Yeah.
so I do appreciate they were very patient and honestly engaged as a group. So impatient, but like they were
engaged at least.
but
Yeah.
they were at least, yeah, like they had a lot of questions, which is I think good because it kind of showed that they were listening. So
right.
you know, will we still have issues? I'm sure, but it's at least something. You know, I feel like they took it seriously at least.
I do worry about, I mean, I know it was only 2 instances, but the 2 students that said they were general members in attendance for their whole club, like that really isn't okay. The president and the treasurer, given all the new information that we've said and how much of it really truly lands on the treasurer and the president, that worries me that they're a general member who's then going to try and relay all this information.
Yeah.
I hope it's not too many more than them.
So I had the same concern. I will say the only thing that was at least slightly in this case, I felt like not encouraging in a way, but like they were officers of other clubs. So I like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm president of Psi Chi. I'm also in. So like,
yeah,
I trust them a little bit more of like, they know why this is important, not just like, I'm a general member that was sent to this and I have no context.
Yeah,
of,
I think that's my concern though, is that so they're the type of officer that understands, but if they're part of another club where the officers don't take it as seriously, because it sounded like the first person that said it was like, oh, I don't see any of the officers here, so I'll sign in for this other club I'm a part of. Which
yeah, that was the Psi Chi
like,
girl.
maybe don't do that. Maybe don't let them off the hook because they should have been here.
So yeah, Abby, when we have a chance to go through the attendance and stuff, I do think this one's going to require us to be a little bit more critical of the people that missed and what and in terms of we haven't even talked about this, Kelly. My thought is though that for this one, because there's so much new information, like I think eventually we probably will have to have like a virtual video makeup, but I think we should offer a makeup for just the new information of like,
Oh,
if
yeah.
you miss, then you're gonna have to come and like we'll redo it hopefully with working tech, but just the session,
Right.
the portion that
Yeah.
me and you co-presented on is my
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I'll find time in my schedule after I was thinking even like I have to be here Sunday in between Clifton Strengths and the evening program, that maybe I could do a screen capture video of the tutorials just to like make sure that there's something that can go out really quickly for them. Because I don't want them waiting on the how to do the roster updates and especially the events. Since it's a requirement now. I don't want any of them being like, well, we can't do it because we don't know how. So
Yeah, and unfortunately, I was hoping that we could just literally cut the videos from
I
this,
know.
but like, unfortunately,
Right.
I think with the tech today is just unfortunate timing, really.
Right.
But
Right. But I'm wondering if maybe like Sunday afternoon, no one, like there aren't other programs going on in that break either. Maybe I can get them done then. And if not, then like I'll definitely put it on my calendar, make it a priority to get them done really quickly.
okay. So for tomorrow, my plan is going to be to type up an email with the key portions of the changes to give like an overview of, basically it'll be not taken directly from the slides, but like the key points of the slides and saying what it is going to mean. So if you missed the summit, one, you can expect to be contacted by me/Abby about a required makeup that will be synchronous.
Yeah.
Where you'll have to attend. Yeah, this won't, and then we'll give them like whenever we're gonna do the makeup.
Yeah.
Whatever, we'll sort it out. We'll probably, Abby, we can talk about it. My thought is we do it maybe in the evening one day, when hopefully less of them have classes. But yeah, I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Okay. That sounds good.
Cool.
All right. I gotta make it down to the bookstore before it closes to buy stuff or lead it to you. So I'm gonna go. Great
All right.
job.
Thanks. Yeah, great job hanging in there all. So yeah, thanks guys.
Yeah.
Abby,
ya.
I'll see you on Thursday.
Yep. See you Thursday. Bye.
All right, bye.